Chapter 21:18. Vroom vroom vroom. The purple energy ball grew bigger and bigger, swallowing all the space around it. The violent force tore the city on the ground apart. In an instant, sand and dust were everywhere, and the bottom area of the spacequake was a mess. No wonder humans hate elves so much. Looking at the surrounding ruins, Dustless lowered his head and remained silent. Humans were sentimental creatures. They could only watch helplessly as their home was mercilessly destroyed. Naturally, they would hate the elves, who were the initiators of all this. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. At the same time, a series of flaming missiles came from afar, attacking the gradually expanding spacequake in a frenzy, trying to stop it from expanding. Boom boom boom. A large number of missiles exploded, and the blue sky suddenly burned with raging flames. The pungent smell of gunpowder spread to every corner of the city along with the wind. This group of AST members are all reckless. Even if they hate elves, they don't have to be so crazy. There are still many people around who haven't evacuated. Dustless frowned and looked up at the AST flying in the sky. He could not help but shake his head and immediately left lazily. Boom. It was worth mentioning that the attack of the AST members had an unexpected effect. The constantly expanding spacequake miraculously stopped. Although it offset the continued expansion of the spacequake in a certain sense, the huge energy ball eventually exploded. Oh no! The captain of the AST team, Liaozi under the sun, stared at the crack on the spacequake. The terrifying energy tide overflowed from the crack, and the power that seeped out turned into a violent storm. The AST members were blown back, and it was difficult for them to stabilize their bodies. Is this the power to control the wind? Looks like it's the two of them. Wu Chen's footsteps suddenly stopped. He looked up at the raging wind and waves in the sky. It was like a tornado. It was extremely terrifying. Even the lazy white clouds were blown away by the hurricane and disappeared without a trace. Dustless could only think of two elves with such an ability, Yaji Yaji and Yaji Xinjian. It's already difficult for this group of AST to deal with one elf. If it's two, it's enough to make them suffer. Dustless shook his head. It was not that he looked down on AST, but humans were still humans. It was too difficult for them to compete with the elves. Bang! Accompanied by a loud rumbling sound, the space exploded with a bang. Immediately after, violent wind waves swept out, blowing Dustless's hair to one side. Amidst the dense waves, one could even see flowing lights riding the wind. Upon closer inspection, they were the sisters Bawu Yijia and Bawu Shixian. However, all of this had nothing to do with Dustless. He merely took a few more glances before leisurely leaving. Bang! The moment he turned around, Dustless suddenly realized that he had bumped into a soft body. And because he had used too much strength, he had accidentally knocked her over. Looking down, it was a beautiful blonde woman. This person's appearance was rather fresh. His complexion was slightly pale, and his figure was a little thin. His emerald eyes were like gems embedded in his eye sockets. They were like the stars hanging high in the sky. The more one looked at him, the more interesting he became. Why does he look so familiar? Dustless stared at the girl without moving. Perhaps because the memories in his mind were too vast, he could not recall the origin of this person for a moment. Sorry, I was distracted. After thinking for a long time, Dustless no longer hesitated. He scratched his head and apologized. I have been observing the battle between the elves and AST. Elves. The blonde girl stared at Dustless in surprise. A ripple flashed through her eyes. She looked at the sisters Bawu Yijia and Bawu Shixian. She murmured softly, ordinary people don't know that they are elves. For ordinary humans, they would not be able to tell that Bawu Shixian and Bawu Yijia were elves. Dustless was admitting it without being pressed. Wu Chen just shrugged his shoulders and said indifferently, I never said that I was an ordinary person. You, on the other hand, when the spacequake came, everyone ran for their lives, but you didn't fear death and went to the center to join the fun. Same to you. I have the same purpose as you. The blonde girl frowned slightly and stared at Dustless carefully. She saw that he had a faint smile on his face. His bright eyes were full of wisdom. He looked quite like a professor in some university, but he was a little too young. However, the face in front of her was very mature and calm. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Elaine Mira-Methers. Nice to meet you. The blonde girl introduced herself in a gentle tone. Her temperament was calm and had a kind of Western gentlemanly demeanor. She was obviously wary of Dustless, but it was difficult to be angry. No wonder I felt that it was familiar. It's her. The confusion in his eyes disappeared. Dustless suddenly remembered the girl's experience. Elaine Mira-Methers was the second executive department head of the DM Society. She was Wilcourt's secretary and right-hand man. She was very loyal and was the world's strongest magician. She had the highest precision of all magicians. She was the strongest when controlling the display device, and was not afraid of any threats. Overall, she was considered an outstanding talent among humans. Her strength was quite strong. If I remember correctly, you are called Dustless, right? Although you are not an elf, your strength is not weaker than an elf at all. In fact, you are even stronger. Elaine had obviously investigated Dustless's information. She looked at the face in front of her with a burning gaze and said with a chuckle, "Are you interested in joining our DM society? With your ability, you will definitely be put in an important position." Put in an important position? Little girl, don't tell me you are fooling me like a 3-year-old child? Dustless curled his lips in disdain and stared at the blonde girl in front of him with a sneer. The important position you are talking about is to catch me and use me as a lab rat for experiments, right? P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 21:19. Irene's eyes stared straight at Dustless. Her plain and beautiful pupils were flowing with an oppressive light, trying to see through Dustless. She never thought that Dustless would be so direct and simply say the purpose of winning him over. It was exactly as Dustless had guessed. Irene and the company behind her just wanted to study Dustless's body and the source of his power. After all, a human like Dustless who was not an elf but could easily crush an elf was indeed incredible. This guy is really smart. He knows my purpose and still dares to stand here. This shows that he has a great chance of escaping from me and even defeating me. This is interesting. The faint smile on the corner of her mouth disappeared. Irene cleared her throat. She certainly would not admit to Dustless's previous words. She said, "Using you as a lab rat to study? That's just your wishful thinking. We're a decent company. We'll never do those crazy things. You may have heard about our company before, but I want to tell you that it's all slander by other companies. They just want to destroy our company." Bullshit. Dustless just sneered and interrupted Irene's speech very rudely. "Don't think that I don't know about your shady business. Your company is obsessed with the power of elves. It is simply wishful thinking to want to capture 10 fragrances and possess the power of elves. If it was before, Dustless naturally would not meddle in this kind of thing, but it was different now. Yi Daoshun, 10 fragrances, and the others had a good relationship with Dustless. Naturally, they would not watch them be captured. Your Excellency, please pay attention to your wording." Irene's smiling face froze. She was very angry with Dustless. This bastard actually thought that her words were bullshit. Even a clay figurine would be angered, not to mention her, the world's #1 magician. There is a saying that if you do not have a guilty conscience, you will not be afraid of ghosts knocking on your door. If I'm wrong, you can just laugh it off and don't take it to heart. Now that your reaction is so intense, it shows that your company is a black nest. Dustless didn't hold back at all as he sneered. "Don't think I don't know what your goal is. Let's not talk about the elves for now. Let's talk about Shido's sister. You know better than me what you did to her, right?" Hearing this, Irene's face turned ugly. Obviously, she was not suitable for lying. She was immediately embarrassed and could not find the words to respond to Dustless. After all, this is the truth. Because Chong Gongzhen's body was used as an experiment, she would definitely die within 10 years. How about this? Dustless stared at Irene for a while before stopping in front of her. He suddenly grabbed her chin and said with a smile, "Although your figure is a bit thin, it's barely passable. How about this? You can be my bed warming maid for the rest of your life." I'll give you 10 times the benefits your boss gave you. How about that? You bastard. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because the higher-ups think highly of you. Don't challenge my bottom line. Hearing this, Irene's eyes were filled with anger. She stared at Dustless with uncertainty. Her eyes were filled with a terrifying scarlet aura. She subconsciously clenched her fists. Hee hee, you want to be rough with me? Just you? Do you know the consequences of an ant challenging a giant? Idiot. Dustless looked at Irene with a mocking smile. Not only was he not intimidated by the girl's aura, but he was also gradually getting interested. Originally, he just wanted to teach this arrogant girl a lesson. He didn't expect her to take a mile after taking an inch. I know that you're the strongest magician. Your combat power is unquestionable. Dustless stared at Irene's pretty face. He immediately chuckled and said, but I'm sure you've investigated my information and know my combat power. You don't have the confidence to defeat me. Otherwise, with your company's way of doing things, you would have sent people to capture me long ago, right? The strong never cared about the feelings of the weak. If Dustless was the prey in Irene's eyes, he might have been captured the moment he appeared in this world. Just like how he captured the elves later on, the reason was too superfluous. You can do something out of line to challenge me. Irene stared at Dustless expressionlessly. Her eyes were full of hostility. She was clearly warning Dustless not to act rashly. Haha. I forgot to tell you that my temper may be a little strange. Those things that I'm not allowed to do, I just like to persevere and complete them. For example, right now, you hope that I don't provoke you, but I like to seek death. So what if I provoke your bottom line? Dustless's eyes were full of mockery. One of his large hands grabbed Irene's chin, while the other hand grabbed her shirt. Crack. With a casual tug, Dustless tore the corner of Irene's straight suit. Her snow-white skin was faintly discernible, and one could clearly see the huge ball of flesh. Let me get this straight. Being able to warm my bed with you is the blessing of 8 lifetimes. There have been many people who wanted to get on my bed but didn't have the chance. I repeat, this is because I think highly of you. Dustless spoke frankly. His expression deeply angered Irene. However, this was also an undeniable fact. After all, most of Dustless's female confidants were extremely powerful. For example, Kagaya Otsutsuki, Unohana Retsu, or Boa Hancock. Compared to them, Irene was not worth mentioning, whether it was in terms of strength or beauty. Good, very good. Irene trembled in anger. A gentle breeze blew, and her face was cold. However, her heart was like an exploding volcano. Anger filled her mind. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 21:20. Elaine was so angry that she was trembling. No matter what, she was still the strongest magician in the human race. But facing Dustless at this moment, let alone respect, the other party didn't even put her in his eyes. He treated her like a pawn and his words were filled with endless contempt and ridicule. You forced me to do this. Irene coldly looked at Dustless. Suddenly, a light appeared on her body, and shiny equipment slowly appeared. It seemed that she could not help but want to teach Dustless a lesson. However, at this moment a sudden change occurred. Boom, boom, boom. Above the horizon, a wave of destruction suddenly descended. It was like a scythe that swept away everything on the ground. Dustless was still fine. After all, he had seen too many storms and waves. He had experienced too many major events. However, Irene was in an extremely difficult situation. Everything happened so suddenly. Her entire person was like a kite with a broken string as she flew out powerlessly. Bang! Irene's body heavily crashed to the ground. Her face was pale, and a faint trace of blood seeped from the corner of her mouth. These despicable and arrogant elves, just you wait. Irene was so angry that she gritted her teeth. She looked up at the two people fighting in the sky, feeling extremely indignant. Bawu Yajiya and Bawu Shishian were the instigators of the sudden storm just now. TSK little girl, you're in such a sorry state. Wu Chun, who was in the middle of the storm, stood tall and straight like a javelin. His relaxed and slow pace obviously showed that he did not put the storm around him in his eyes. How about it? Do you agree to my conditions now? Dustless stroked Irene's smooth chin and chuckled. Don't worry, I just need a maid to warm my bed. You've gone too far. If you want to humiliate me, why don't you just kill me? Irene's face was filled with anger as she glared at Dustless. If it wasn't for the fact that she was suddenly injured, which made it extremely painful to move, she definitely would not mind giving Dustless a few slaps. Now that she had been severely injured by those despicable elves and could not move, Dustless was clearly taking advantage of this situation. You want me to kill you? I won't kill you. Letting you die so casually would be letting you off too easily. Dustless smiled faintly. Naturally, he would not be provoked. What if you do something perverted to me? Looking gloomily at Dustless, Elaine's eyes were filled with disgust and helplessness. There was nothing he could do about it. The situation was beyond his control. He had no choice but to lower his head. Afraid that I'll do something perverted? Hearing this, Dustless couldn't help but laugh. He playfully touched the girl's face. You're quite pretty, but I'm really not interested in you. Your 2 lumps of meat are too skinny, not to my liking. Staring at Eileen's snow-white ball, Wuchen only glanced at it casually. You. Irene was fuming with anger. She was hit hard by Dustless's words. Die for me, you stinky brat who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. As soon as his voice fell, Irene's fragrant foot smashed over. Bang. Dustless casually grabbed it and subdued it. His cold eyes did not have a trace of emotion. What if I strip you naked on the streets? Gulp. Hearing this, Irene instantly shivered. She looked at Dustless in fear, then said submissively, Sorry, I was wrong. I will definitely be obedient in the future. At least you know what's good for you. Dustless lightly snorted. Just as he was about to stand up, he suddenly felt a large amount of softness wrap around him. You guys. What do you want? Could it be that you guys think I'm made of mud and want to test my strength? To his left and right were the unexpected Bichiwu Yaguya and Bichiwu Shisian. Hey Shisian, we've competed in so many events, but there's never been a winner. This time, let's do something different. Whoever this brat falls for first will win. How about that? Bichiwu Yaguya looked at Bichiwu Shisian provocatively. At the same time, he gave Dustless a few coquettish glances, as if to say, You're lucky, brat. What does this have to do with me? The corner of Dustless's mouth twitched when he heard this. He felt as if he had been innocently shot while lying down. He cursed in his heart. You guys can compete, but what does it have to do with me? Agreed. The naturally naive Bichiwu Shisian readily agreed without hesitation. She was extremely decisive and did not even bat an eyelid. Hee, now there's a good show to watch. Irene looked at Dustless with a gloating expression. Even the mission of roping him in had been thrown out of the window. Seeing Dustless's gloomy face, she felt particularly happy. However, she had to admit that Dustless's luck with women was really good. Just standing on the street, there were beauties sending themselves to his door, making others envious. Let's start now. I'll definitely make you accept your defeat wholeheartedly. Bichiwu Yaguya looked down at Bichiwu Shisian arrogantly. Then he hugged Dustless tightly, wanting to take him into his arms. Hurry up and fall for me. Bichiwu Yaguya almost rode on Dustless, as if he wanted to merge himself with Dustless, for fear that Bichiwu Shisian would snatch him away. Hurry up and fall for you. Dustless's face was extremely dark. If he was not different from ordinary people, he would have been strangled to death. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 21-21. Dustless was very familiar with the 2 girls in front of him, and he knew that they had no ill intentions. Otherwise, he would have slapped them to death already. Although the elves were powerful, they were still nothing to Dustless. You want me to be infatuated with the 2 of you? Dustless stared at the 2 with great interest. His eyes suddenly narrowed, and a dangerous light danced in his eyes. Under this clear gaze, everyone felt like they were naked and exposed to Dustless's eyes. Hey, you look so gentle. Why are you looking at people with such vulgar eyes? Under Dustless's gaze, Yata Yata's body twisted and turned, and her face was slightly red. She was quite uncomfortable. You want me to be infatuated with the two of you? Dustless looked back and forth between the two girls as he chuckled and said, It's very simple. I love watching women fight. You can continue now. Rolling his eyes, Wuchen revealed a pair of clear eyes. His expression looked harmless to humans and animals. This scum is really bad. He wants the two sisters to kill each other. Irene stared at Dustless with great surprise, and the shock in her crystalline eyes could not be concealed. Dustless and Ratatoskr were inextricably linked. In her understanding, Dustless's actions should be to save the elves. She did not expect this guy to want the two girls to kill each other. His actions were both surprising and puzzling. What an interesting guy. Irene could not help but look at the calm Dustless and sneered. Although the elves are a bit simple-minded, do you think others are idiots? Do you think they'll kill each other just because you want them to? How can they be so obedient? However, the two elven girls' following reply made Dustless's jaw drop. Okay, I'll listen to you. Without even thinking, Yata Yata nodded and looked at Yata Yata with a cold light in her eyes, full of battle intent. I agree. Yata Yata only said 2 words, but her gaze was extremely determined. Boom boom boom. Suddenly, an extremely powerful impact burst out from the two of them. A violent hurricane swept out. The two women were shrouded in thick tornadoes. They roared in the sky, and the surrounding buildings were swept up one after another. Circles and circles of tornadoes spun rapidly. Due to the wind speed being too fast, the formless tornadoes had turned into blades that could be seen with the naked eye. A slight touch would probably cause one's body to bleed profusely. The building ruins that were swept up would also be sliced into pieces. This is too childish. Irene looked at the two of them in disbelief. Then, she looked at Dustless's unmoved expression and scolded. Why are these two brats so childish? Can't you see that this is to make you kill each other on purpose? In fact, Irene wasn't the only one who was stunned. The members of Ratatoskr were also stunned. Is Dustless too smart, or are these two elves too naive? Itsuka Kotori was also stunned. She bit the lollipop in her mouth subconsciously. She didn't expect these two elves to be so obedient. Especially when they met Dustless for the first time. They were so obedient. Quickly show me the data of those two elves. Itsuka Kotori's eyes turned slightly, and she couldn't wait to order Kyuhei. Commander, I have seen the favorability of those two elves to Dustless. Murasame Rain slowly walked over, put the freshly brewed coffee aside, looked at the data, and explained. At first, the favorability of Dustless was only 10%, but after Dustless asked them to duel, the favorability climbed to an astonishing 40%. Crack. Hearing this, Itsuka Kotori clenched her teeth and said in disbelief. I thought the favorability of the two elves to Dustless would drop to negative, but it increased by 30%. God, is there a mistake? As an outsider, I can see that Dustless is deliberately making the two elves kill each other, but the favorability didn't decrease but increased. It's really strange. No, this may be Dustless's intention. Murasame Rain looked at the lazy Dustless through the screen, and after thinking for a few seconds, she explained. Perhaps Dustless knows the character of the two elves and did this deliberately. I'm afraid that refusing will cause more chaos. Not to mention, Murasame Rain really guessed it right. Dustless knew the character of Bawu Yagusha and Bawu Shishian. After living for so long, day after day, year after year, Dustless's heart had been tempered thousands of times. How could he be easily infatuated with others? Therefore, he could only think of other ways to transfer the problem. It was not a big problem to let the two elves fight. Anyway, their strength was at the same level, and no one could do anything to each other. In the end, they could only stop. The war between women looks particularly pleasing to the eye. Looking up at the sky, above the sky, two streamers were fighting with all their strength, and the loud noise was very oppressive. Why is it so easy to tame the elves? Irene's eyes were fixed on Dustless's body, and she complained in a sour tone. If I were a man, maybe the two elves just now would choose me instead of Dustless. Looking at this momentum, I'm afraid I don't need to do anything. I can just use my mouth to subdue them. With the appearance of the elves, the residents around fled. Only Dustless was left. Bawu Yagusha and Bawu Shishian could only choose him. If you were a man. Hearing Irene's soft complaint, Dustless just smiled and joked. They wouldn't be obedient. Why? Irene asked puzzledly. Idiot. Glancing at Irene, Dustless rolled his eyes and said, Men and women can change sex, do I still need you? P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 21-22. You are shameless. Irene glared at Dustless, gritting her teeth angrily, and there were clearly visible traces of blood on her tongue. It's not that she was narrow-minded, but this guy's words were too irritating. You continue to play, I'm going to teach. Completely ignoring the angry Irene, Dustless left her a lazy back. Boom boom boom. The battle between the two people in the sky was still going on fiercely, but as Dustless imagined, Yabu Yajiya and Yabu Shishian couldn't do anything to each other. Sigh, staring at Dustless's back, Irene just sighed helplessly. The thin back looked vulnerable, but for Irene, it was the most troublesome and dangerous enemy. Time flies, and it was noon in the blink of an eye, in the PE teacher's office. Dustless, Kuan, I heard that you will have a new assistant to report. Murasame Rain stared at Dustless, who was sleeping on the table, and was secretly entangled. Where did this guy come to be a teacher? He was obviously lazy and sleeping. He was so comfortable. New assistant? Rubbing his sleepy eyes, Dustless glanced at Murasame Rain and complained. Is it an undercover like you? I have never heard of a PE teacher who needs an assistant. Hearing this, Murasame Rain was silent. This matter was really a bit strange. What did a PE teacher need to stop? Including Murasame Rain, this assistant was not worthy of the name. I want to see who is coming to die. Looking out of the window in boredom, Dustless's slack eyes gradually had a little more expectation. Anyway, it was just a way to pass the boring time. By the way, how are the two elves today? With a change of topic, Dustless suddenly remembered Yabu Yajiya and Yabu Shishian, and asked curiously, were they killed by AST? Thanks to you they didn't. The two sisters left safe and sound. Rain Murasame shook her head slightly and said with a smile, the strongest in AST is Tobi Origami, but since you saved her parents, her hatred for elves has been greatly reduced. Although she still works in AST, she has not killed anyone, and her hatred for elves has decreased a lot. Ta-ta-ta-ta. Suddenly, a creaking sound came from the corridor. Are they coming? It sounds like the sound of high heels. In other words, is it a woman? Wu Chen's eyes lit up a little. He looked at the closed door with interest. He wanted to see who this inexplicable assistant was. Creak. The locked door was suddenly opened, revealing a delicate face. The emerald eyes were very dazzling. The moment she appeared, Dustless's sight could no longer move. It was not that this woman's appearance was outstanding. Although she looked good, her skin was white, and her appearance was outstanding, but this was not what Dustless cared about the most. It was that this so-called assistant was a familiar person, and she had a grudge with Dustless before. Are you here to pick a fight? If so, then congratulations, you will definitely suffer my revenge. Staring at the gentle girl, Dustless said faintly. This assistant was not someone else, it was Irene who he met before. I don't understand what you are talking about. Irene shook her head, looked at Dustless's black eyes and said frankly, I am just your assistant. Before this, I didn't know that the physical education teacher of this school was you, Dustless. You didn't know it was me? You don't even blush when you tell a lie. It seems that you gradually get used to making up lies. Dustless just disdainfully curled his lips and immediately sneered. Very well, since you don't think it's like a sheep entering the tiger's mouth, I don't care. After the voice fell, Dustless glanced at Murasame Rain, winked at her and smirked, obviously hinting Murasame Rain to tease this proud woman. I understand. Murasame Rain's eyebrows stretched out, nodded gently with a smile, and elegantly picked up the black notepad. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Irene. If you have any trouble in the future, Just leave it to me. Irene smiled and glanced at Dustless and Murasame Rain. Her clear voice was very pleasant. However, in the next second, she instantly felt bitter. She couldn't wait to slap herself, and secretly scolded her mouth. Miss Irene, since you have said so, I will not be polite. There is no doubt that as an assistant of a PE teacher, you naturally need a strong physique. Now please go to the playground and run 100 laps with weights. You must finish it within an hour. Murasame Rain looked at Irene seriously, and there was no room for negotiation in her words. 100 laps? Are you kidding me? Run 100 laps in an hour? Can this be done by human beings? One lap is almost 500 meters, 100 laps is 50,000 meters, which is 50 kilometers, and it's completed within an hour. You are not deliberately teasing me, are you? Irene's watery eyes stared at Dustless, and her anger almost burned her reason. This guy was obviously deliberately teasing her. Run 50 kilometers in an hour? What a joke. Deliberately teasing you? I am not that kind of mean person. It's completely nonsense. As an assistant of a PE teacher, you don't have a strong physique. How can you be a role model for students? You have to pay attention to your identity. Dustless said slowly, looking at Irene with a smirk, and his cheeks were full of teasing expressions. Obviously, Dustless deliberately teased Irene. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 21-23. AI Lian was so angry that she clenched her teeth. She understood that Wu Qin was purposely punishing her, and using this as a pretext to make a fuss. He was deliberately retaliating against her. However, the sad thing was that AI Lian didn't have any reason to refute Wu Qin. She could only swallow her anger. You win. Using the most resentful eyes in her life, she glared at Dustless a few times before leaving. It seemed that she was really going for a run. Isn't it inappropriate to deliberately set her up like this? Who knows, maybe she'll secretly set a trap for you when you're trying to catch the elves. That's not worth it. Although Murasame Rain was also somewhat gloating, she felt that it was too much. After all, it was an exaggeration of 50 kilometers in an hour. It would be a miracle if he could complete it. Gulp. Dustless smiled and took a big sip of herbal tea. Looking through the window at the blonde girl on the field, he said disapprovingly, Rain, she came to monitor me. Do I need to be nice to this kind of person? If I didn't guess wrong, Irene's purpose is to collect my data, then find an opportunity to hurt me, and then use me for experiments. When the time is right, she won't mind dissecting me into 8 pieces. Speaking of this, Dustless's eyes were cold. With a bang, he directly crushed the teacup in his hand, and the ground was full of glass fragments. Huff huff huff. On the field, Eileen was panting and sweating profusely. Her bright golden hair was covered with sparkling and translucent beads of sweat. She was the only one running on the field. Her face was also incomparably pale, causing others to feel pity for her. However, from the beginning to the end, Wu Qin was like a piece of iron. His cold eyes condensed a cold light, without the slightest bit of humanity. Not to mention having protective feelings for the fairer sex, there was not even a trace of pity ripple. To cherish a beautiful woman, one had to look at the other party. Who would cherish a beautiful woman who had deliberately approached you, wanted to collect your data, and was about to be dissected by you in the end? It was already good that Dustless didn't destroy the beauty. Speaking of which, that homicidal maniac Tokisaki Kurumi seems to have disappeared. Dustless's eyes flickered as he looked over. His clear eyes took in the entire Lichen High School. Shido Itsuka, Tabichi Origami Yadotoka, and the others were all clearly visible. Only Toshiaki Kurumi was missing. Why? Do you miss her? Murasame Rain stared at Dustless with interest. Her eyes were shining, and it felt particularly strange with the thick black smoke. Anyone could see what she meant. Miss her? She's more like me. That little girl had always wanted to borrow my power to go back in time and kill the primordial elf. She had always regarded me as her exclusive property and always paid attention to me. She suddenly didn't come to school. I was just very curious. In the past, I was always surrounded by Izaki Kurumi's traces. Now that I've given up on him, it feels weird. Dustless spoke frankly as he looked around, but he still couldn't find any trace of Tokusaki Kurumi. I don't know the specific reason. Our people tried to monitor her, but they were killed, and even their bodies were not found. Murasame Rain shook her head and sighed. Among all the elves, Nightmare is the most difficult to deal with. The number of humans she killed is dozens of times more than other elves. Enough. Without waiting for Murasame Rain to continue, Dustless interrupted her and said with a frown, Toshiaki Kurumi has confronted me many times. I know her quite well. In fact, she's not as bad as you think. There's no need to find someone to monitor her. Those who were killed by Toshiaki Kurumi only meant that they deserved to be killed. Deserved to be killed? Hearing Dustless's words, Murasame Rain couldn't help but shiver. Although this cold tone didn't have any killing intent, it made her feel as if she had fallen into an ice cave. Looking carefully at Dustless's deep black eyes, Murasame Rain clearly saw a kind of indifference that she had never seen before. He was full of indifference to everything in the world. He could destroy it with a wave of his hand, and he didn't care about the lives of humans as if they were worthless. What a cold guy. Although Dustless is not an elf, he is definitely more brutal and terrifying than the elves. I hope that no one will anger Dustless in the future. Murasame Rain took a deep breath. Dustless's indifferent tone just now made her shiver all over. In the blink of an eye, half an hour had passed. Once again, the sound of high heels could be heard in the corridor. However, it was different from before. It stopped after a few sounds. Repeating this process over and over again, it seemed to be very tiring. Boom. The office door was smashed open by a punch. Dustless raised his eyes and looked straight at the door. The person who came was Irene, who was half dead from exhaustion. Ah, you really have no manners. Didn't your family say that you have to knock on the door before entering? You don't even know the basic etiquette. How can I rest assured to let you be my assistant? Dustless chuckled and stared at Irene, who had a dark face. He was silent for a moment. The sudden words almost made her unable to hold back her anger and fight with Dustless. Irene, in fact, you don't have to run 100 laps. You just need to ask for leave at that time. After all, I am a very compassionate boss. As my assistant, Rain has never suffered so much. Why didn't you say that before? Now that I have finished running, it's your turn to talk nonsense. Hearing this, Irene was so angry that smoke was coming out of her 7 orifices. She shouted loudly. Could it be that your mouth was sewn up by needle and thread before? You even forgot this kind of thing. How dare you say that you are compassionate to your subordinates? Shameless. You are an evil person. It's really hard to be a good person. Dustless sighed sadly, then smiled and said, Since you think that I am not a good boss, then I will show my true nature. Irene, please go out and run another 100 laps. Don't ask me why. Since you said that I am an evil person, I will take it with a clear conscience. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 evaluation votes plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 21-24. AI Lien was so angry that her head felt stuffy. Her slender white jade finger trembled as she pointed at Wu Chun. Seeing this guy's sloppy manner with a cheap smile on his face, her pink face instantly turned red like a monkey's butt. Her pair of eyes that were enough to spurt out flames almost melted Wu Chun. Are you purposely going against me? Don't think that I'm easy to bully. Do you believe that I can kick you out of this school with just a flick of my finger? AI Lien could not bear it any longer. Looking at Dustless's stinky face, her innermost being churned, almost throwing up. This bastard is too hateful. He bullied me time and time again. Not to mention a living person. Even a clay bodhisattva would be angered by Dustless. Hee, you want me to get out? Dustless laughed. He blinked his deep eyes and said innocently, You want me to get out? I can't ask for anything more. If you have the guts, ask the principal to fire me right now. Dustless put his feet on the table and leaned his head on the soft cushion. He even whistled, looking like a dead pig that wasn't afraid of boiling water. Don't get carried away. Irene pointed at Dustless and trembled with anger. She wanted to kick Dustless out of this school. She also wanted to, but the higher-ups would not agree to such a doting method. Her task was to monitor Wu Chen and collect the data of this abominable brat. If Wu Chen left, how could she collect the data? Therefore, Irene was just casually saying it to scare Dustless. She thought that threatening Dustless would scare him, but who would have thought that this guy would retreat in order to advance? His expression made Irene so angry that she wanted to bite Dustless to death. You have guts. Just wait and see. Irene glared at Dustless and left. Being in the same space as this guy, she felt that she would lose 10 years of her life. Hey, Irene, don't run. Go and clean the toilet bowl in the girls' room. Also, remember to clean the entire school building. And lastly, despicable bastard, he must have done it on purpose, definitely. Does the PE teacher's assistant need to clean the ladies' room? You're deliberately causing trouble for me. Dustless's series of orders came from behind. Hearing this, Irene almost vomited blood. Who does this bastard think I am? Even a full-time nanny wouldn't need to take care of the school building. What a bastard. You better not fall into my hands. Irene turned around and glanced at Dustless's ugly face, then angrily ran away. You've completely infuriated her like this. It's inevitable that you'll cause some unnecessary trouble. Seeing that Irene had run away, Murasame Rain sighed with melancholy. Once the opportunity was seized, the other party would definitely retaliate fiercely. So what? Even if I infuriated her, would she eat me? Dustless disapproved of this and sneered. Playing with her is an honor for this little girl. If she doesn't know when to stop, then don't blame me for being ruthless. By the way, I have something to do, so I'll be leaving first. Suddenly remembering something, Murasame Rain smiled and stared at Dustless. What's the matter? Dustless looked at Murasame Rain strangely and wondered. Is it the problem of the elves? The power of Toka and Kotori has been sealed by me. Tokisaki Kurumi is missing. The 4 elves are so well behaved and won't cause trouble. Are there other elves? Speaking of this, Dustless instinctively thought of the 2 sisters, Baba Yagiya and Baba Yagiya. It was strange to think about it. After the 2 sisters disappeared, they seemed to have disappeared from the world. There was nowhere to find them, including the members of AST, who couldn't find the traces of the 2. It was as if they had never appeared. The next class seems to be the PE class. It's really troublesome. I wanted to leave it to you, but now you leave early. Don't you want me to play with those kids again? Looking at the class schedule, Dustless complained quite unhappily. Murasame Rain's eyes turned gently and smiled. Leave the next PE class to me. I'll just go out for about 10 minutes. I'll come back when the time is up. You can rest here temporarily. Are you sure? Dustless showed a rare smile. I asked you to go to class for me before. You didn't compromise. Why did you suddenly change this time? Could it be that there's some unspeakable secret? No, absolutely not. Murasame Rain immediately refuted Dustless and said, if you don't want to, then you go to the next PE class. I'll stay in the office to rest. You go. Who has time to accompany those kids to do radio gymnastics? It's funny. Dustless snorted and lay on the sofa comfortably. He waved his hand and said, just do as you said. You go. Remember to come back in 10 minutes. After today, I will resign. I have no patience for this job. It's too boring. Murasame Rain didn't say much. She just nodded and immediately left quietly. Time passed by minute, and 10 minutes passed in the blink of an eye. Knock, knock, knock. The sound of knocking on the door suddenly sounded. Dustless, who was sleeping comfortably, opened his eyes and couldn't help but frown. Is it Rain? She said before that she would take my place in this PE class. Why did she suddenly come back? After a deep stretch, Dustless yawned and went to open the door. He was really sleepy. Creak. Unexpectedly, as soon as the door was opened, 2 beautiful figures rushed into his eyes. The appearance and dressing of these 2 people were almost the same. Their figures were very hot, and they were even wearing cute maid outfits. Their rosy cheeks were full of affection as they stared at Dustless. Their pink and tender faces were exceptionally perfect. 2 shy little dimples were clearly visible, making people who saw them couldn't help but want to kiss them personally. You are Bachiwu Yijia and Bachiwu Shisian? Dustless stupidly said the names of the two girls. Suddenly, the strange smile of Mirasame Rain appeared in his mind. After the corner of his mouth twitched, he suddenly cursed. Damn Rain, no wonder she took the initiative to teach those naughty kids for me. It turned out to help the two sisters find time to capture me. Hateful. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 21-25. The two of you. No wonder I couldn't find any traces of you. So Lingyin hid you. Also, what kind of nonsense did she teach you? Why are you wearing maid outfits? Dustless stared straight at the two girls. At this moment, their outfits were extremely revealing. Because of the white maid outfits, their skin was almost transparent, and their graceful bodies were completely exposed to Dustless. Cough, cough, cough. Even though Dustless was an old monster who had lived for hundreds of years, he was also quite embarrassed at this moment. He looked at the clear eyes of the two sisters, which were as pure and flawless as snow. It was obvious that they didn't know anything, and were extremely simple-minded. Don't even think about running away this time. I will definitely make you infatuated with me. Bachiwu Yajiya hugged Dustless's right arm and directly stuffed Dustless's right arm into the cleavage in front of her. The endless aftertaste of the touch immediately surged into his heart. Dustless's heart, which had been calm for many years, rippled, and a nameless fire burned in his heart. Objection. Bachiwu Shixuan did the same, and also pulled Dustless's cheating arm over, and buried it deep in her cleavage. She looked at Bachiwu Yajiya provocatively. Your rough skin will only make Dustless more uncomfortable. What did you say? Shixuan, do you believe that I won't tear your mouth apart? Bachiwu Yajiya was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. He instantly stood up and glared at Bachiwu Shixuan, looking like he was about to start a fight. This is the truth. Bachiwu Shixuan was not afraid at all. She looked into Bachiwu Yajiya's eyes without any fear. She pointed at Dustless and announced, Teacher said that men like big breasts. You obviously have no advantage in this aspect. Admit defeat, Yajiya. Humph, your breasts are big? What a joke, Shixuan. Hearing this, Yasuya Geisha sneered. Then, like an arrogant queen, she crossed her arms in front of her and squeezed the heavy meatball in front of her. She looked at Yasuya Geisha's cleavage with disdain. Your cleavage is too small. It can't even withstand a single blow. If you know what's good for you, leave quickly. Don't lose face if you lose. Objection. Bawu Shixian said sarcastically. Yajuya is just... All of you stop. From now on, you are not allowed to speak without my permission. Dustless suddenly interrupted the quarrel between the two and asked with a headache. Who is the teacher you are talking about? Which damn teacher taught you all this? This kind of teacher is simply a beast in human clothing. Instead of teaching the students properly, he actually taught you how to seduce men. He's sick. Dustless opened his mouth. Just as he was about to continue speaking, a figure suddenly appeared in his mind. In the original work, it was Mirasame Rain who taught the two sisters how to seduce men, tricking the two sisters to capture 5 River Shido. Who would have thought that it would become him? Don't tell me Lingyin taught you? Dustless asked uncertainly as he looked at the two of them. The two sisters looked at each other and nodded at the same time. As expected, it's this Fujoshi. Dustless shook his head and was not surprised. He first pulled the two sisters into the PE teacher's office and let them sit on the sofa. Then he slowly said, Actually, you can change the competition. Let me be infatuated with you is a bit too much. Dustless had lived for hundreds of years. What kind of beauty had he not seen before? He might have met a beautiful woman that he liked, but he would not overdo it. He would never be infatuated with her. This consort has already competed against Shisian in all sorts of special competitions. Even now, there's still no clear victor. This challenge is the most challenging one. Yaigia looked at Dustless seriously. It was obvious that she wanted to continue with this competition. Brats will always be brats. You won't listen to adults' advice at all. Dustless shook his head again, and was too lazy to persuade her. He looked up at the ceiling and said, "Then, I'm sorry to tell you that even if you wear maid outfits, you won't be able to make me infatuated with you. Your plans will all be ruined." No, this is only the first step. There's still a second step. Yakuza came over with a smile and lay on Dustless's body. Instantly, a fragrant aroma wafted out from Yakuza's body. Dustless was stunned. He stared at Yaigia and stared at her snow-white breasts. There was an envelope that looked like a letter in the middle. Curious, Dustless reached out and grabbed it. After looking at it carefully for a few seconds, Dustless asked in surprise, "Seducing Night Meijio's concert ticket? Where did you get this from?" "Master gave it to us." Yaigia looked at Dustless and was convinced. She also took out a similar ticket. This Murasame Rain really put in a lot of effort. In order for her two disciples to woo me, she even prepared Seducing Night Meijio's concert ticket in advance. Looking at the ticket in his hand and glancing at the two girls' eager eyes, Dustless knew that he had to go this time even if he didn't want to. The weirdest thing was Seducing Night Meijio's concert. As a transmigrator, Dustless understood that Seducing Night Meijio was also an elf. Her identification name was Diva. She was a student in her normal life. Her real identity was a human who was endowed with elf power like Itsuka Kotori. She had an extremely male-hating personality, and her favorability would drop below that of a cockroach just by talking to her. She was an elf who liked females very much. In other words, it was no different from a fool's dream to woo Night Meijio, or gain her favorability. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 21-26. Of course, Dustless could also imitate Itsuka Shido, disguise himself as a woman, and try to seduce Meijio. "Okay, I promise you two that I'll accompany you to see Meijio's concert in 3 days." Dustless couldn't bear to refuse when faced with Yejuya and Yeju Shisien's expectant eyes. He had no choice but to agree to go to the concert in 3 days. "Ehe, at least you know what's good for you. It's rare for you to be so obedient. I'll give you a reward." Yejuya looked at Dustless with a smile. She stared at his white and tender face and blushed. But when she recalled Murasame Rain's advice, she mustered up her courage and still took the initiative to approach him. "What do you want?" Dustless looked at Yejuya strangely. He didn't know what this guy was doing. Shisien wants it too. At the same time, Yeju Shisien's face also leaned over. Her eyes stared at Dustless like a wolf or a tiger, as if she was hesitating where to start. These two guys. Seeing this, Dustless didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Ripples appeared on both sides of his eyes. He was speechless to find that he was surrounded by the small lips of the two girls on both sides. Moi. Taking advantage of Dustless's hesitation, Yejuya and Yeju Shisien attacked with great tacit understanding. The two of them left a pink lip print on Dustless's left and right cheeks. "You." Wu Chen's eyes widened when he sensed the strange sensation on his cheek. He sighed when he saw the two girls' delicate faces. Forget it. It's fine that you took advantage of me. I'll put this on Ling Yin's head. You're the one who's benefiting." Yejuya punched Dustless and said angrily, "You're the one who took advantage of us, not the other way around. How many handsome guys want to go to the concert with me? I'm not interested." "Is that so? Then I'm really surprised to be invited by the two of you." Dustless chuckled. His tone was very flat. In fact, let alone watching the concert, he didn't know how many beauties were circling around him. It was just that Dustless didn't care. After all, there were too many beauties in the world. He couldn't fall in love with every one of them. Moreover, a mere concert was nothing. As long as Dustless called, there would definitely be countless beauties accompanying him to watch the concert. This was the benefit of being powerful. Ding ding ding. In the blink of an eye, it was noon. At the same time, it was also the time for Lichon High School to be dismissed. "You haven't gone back yet?" Walking into the PE teacher's office, the first thing that came into view was Dustless lying comfortably on the sofa. His eyes were closed as if he was taking a nap. Of course, I'm still missing you, the main character. Dustless suddenly opened his eyes and stared at the figure of Murasame Rain. His palm suddenly grabbed, and a large scale of gravity broke out in an instant. Boom. Caught off guard, Murasame Rain lost the control of her body. The whole person was like a kite with a broken string, powerlessly falling into Dustless's arms. What do you want to do? Let me go, here is the school. Murasame Rain stared at the handsome face close at hand. After a few seconds, she immediately struggled violently. However, her strength was too small, and she couldn't break free at all. You did something wrong and still ask me what I did. Are you still pretending to be stupid now? Dustless stared at Murasame Rain jokingly, with a mischievous expression on his face. It seems that if I don't give you some punishment, you won't confess. After the voice fell, Dustless's hands reached into Murasame Rain's clothes. Don't mess around, here is the school. Murasame Rain was like a frightened little white rabbit, screaming loudly quickly. Hey, you can't mess around at school, but can you mess around at home? Touching Murasame Rain's chin, Dustless laughed and joked. Your two apprentices are very capable. They even dare to regard me as prey. Their ambition is not small. You know it all? Hearing this, Murasame Rain's pretty face was slightly red, and she understood what Dustless said. The two little girls' minds are as pure as snow. I just asked them a little bit, and then I knew who the behind-the-scenes person is. Dustless glanced at Murasame Rain disdainfully, and his expression rarely showed a trace of emotion. He smiled and said, but they succeeded, and I have promised to go to the concert. Really? Murasame Rain was greatly surprised, and the thick dark circles under her eyes disappeared in an instant. She was in high spirits and looked energetic. For a long time, in the impression of most people, Dustless was an extremely cold type. Although he usually talked and laughed, his essence was cold. Now that her two apprentices had successfully conquered Dustless, Murasame Rain's heart inevitably felt a little proud. Yes, I promised them. The two children are very simple. Although they are elves, they are no different from human children. Perhaps it is the remaining kindness that causes trouble. I can't bear to refuse them, so I agreed. Dustless said lightly. So, I taught them well and took advantage of your kindness? Murasame Rain smiled slightly and sounded very satisfied. Maybe anyway, I promised them. In short, you succeeded, Rain. Dustless nodded slightly, and immediately changed his expression. He smiled and said, although I can't bully the two pure little girls, but speaking of this, Dustless's eyes burst out a burst of cold light, and Murasame Rain felt uncomfortable, and had a feeling of imminent disaster. But what? Murasame Rain asked nervously. It's very simple. Dustless suddenly hugged Murasame Rain, and immediately pressed her on the table with great strength, lifting the black skirt. I can't bear to retaliate against your two apprentices. After all, they are too simple, but as their teacher, I can retaliate against you. I will let you understand the consequences of using me. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 21-27. Dustless had a great expression, which made Murasame Rain's chest tremble with anger. Let me go, or I will scream. You don't want to be seen by others, do you? A strong person like you doesn't want to lose your reputation and be treated as a pervert, do you? Murasame Rain looked at Dustless in horror. The joy of victory before disappeared without a trace. She secretly scolded that this deal was a loss. Although it was cool to see Dustless being defeated, the sad thing was that she got herself involved in it. You still dare to threaten me when you are about to die? You're such a stubborn person. Dustless looked at Murasame Rain angrily, and then raised his arm under her surprised gaze. Stop it! Stop it! Murasame Rain blushed, her face was red, and the dark circles on both sides of her eyes disappeared. She had already guessed what Dustless would do to her. Pa! A ruthless slap fell, and there was a clear palm print on Murasame Rain's butt. You dare to threaten me, Pa? Another merciless slap landed on his face. You dare to plot against me, Pa. Another slap fell. This scene lasted about a few minutes. When it was over, Murasame Rain had crystal tears on both sides of her eyes. Obviously, she was beaten by Dustless. Wait and see. Murasame Rain stared at Dustless's back fiercely, and her small hand subconsciously touched her butt. She grimaced in pain, but strangely she didn't feel disgusted. Not only that, but she was full of energy, and there was boiling heat in her body. Strange, when did I become like this? Murasame Rain was extremely embarrassed. Every time she was slapped by Dustless, her body would have a strange electric current, and her body was soft. If it weren't for the fact that Dustless was close at hand, she might have been unable to stand up. Just now she was in pain and pleasure. Why don't you go? Do you want to stay here and try again? Dustless turned his head to look at Murasame Rain, who was still wasting time in the office, and smiled playfully. Do you want to change other tricks? For an old monster like me who has lived for hundreds of years, I have many tricks up my sleeve. You're already a few hundred years old, yet you're still playing this kind of trick? Then you must have been a super freak when you were young. Murasame Lingyin snorted softly, and her charming eyes were like silk. Usually she looked sluggish. At this moment, her budding appearance was like a blooming rose, which made it difficult for people to move their eyes away. Don't be so sure. Have you seen me when I was young? When this young master was young, flowers bloomed when they saw me, and everyone loved me when they saw me. How am I as wretched as you say? Or, Dustless blinked his bright eyes and said with a faint smile, is your body feeling something and you liked me just now? Ah, what a bad woman. Damn hooligan. Hearing this, Murasame Rain rolled her eyes at Dustless and immediately picked up the pillow and smashed it over. That's her. On the other side, Tokisaki Kurumi quietly sneaked, staring at the girl walking alone in front of her, and a smug smile appeared on her face. Dustless, right? This time, I must make you kneel in front of me and beg for mercy. Even if I can't deal with you, dealing with such a child is still a piece of cake for me. Tokisaki Kurumi proudly said to herself. The girl who was focused on by her eyes was Yansei. Among all the elves, the kindest was Yansei. She wasn't good at fighting, and even if she defeated the opponent, she wouldn't kill the enemy. As the saying goes, pick the soft persimmon. After careful consideration, Tokisaki Kurumi naturally chose Yansei. She wanted to capture this weak girl, and use her to threaten Dustless. If you want to blame someone, blame Dustless. Who told that guy to refuse to merge with me? Goodbye, girl. Tokisaki Kurumi picked up the ancient pistol and aimed at Yansei. The corner of her mouth outlined a cold arc. When she was about to pull the trigger, a cold wind suddenly came from behind, and a bone-chilling arm was placed on her shoulder. Who is it? Bang. Tokisaki Kurumi was startled at first, but she immediately turned around and fired. Crack. One had to admit that Tokisaki Kurumi's gun skills were at the peak of perfection. Even though it was a shot based on her intuition, it still blasted Dustless's head and tore a fist-sized hole in it. It's you. After seeing who it was, Tokisaki Kurumi's nerves tensed up. She looked at the hole in Dustless's forehead and didn't dare to underestimate or be careless. After several exchanges, Tokisaki Kurumi understood how heaven-defying Dustless was. The Glint Fruit's elemental transformation ability could easily heal this kind of injury. You've got guts. I was wondering why I didn't see you in school. So you've been plotting against Yansei. Fortunately, I had the foresight to leave the Flying Thunder God Sorcerer on you. Otherwise, I might have succeeded this time. His forehead glowed faintly, and his wounds instantly healed. Dustless stared at Tokisaki Kurumi as if nothing had happened. Unlike before, Dustless was clearly enraged this time. His eyes flickered with a cold light of destruction. Kiki. Dustless laughed sinisterly as he stared at Tokisaki Kurumi. Tokisaki Kurumi, haven't you always wanted to fuse with me? I'll fulfill your wish this time. Really? Tokisaki Kurumi was stunned for a moment before rejoicing. However, when she saw Dustless's actions, her joy was quickly replaced by endless fear. What are you trying to do? Tokisaki Kurumi's eyes flickered. She saw Dustless slowly walking over and taking off his jacket. His invasive eyes made Tokisaki Kurumi uncomfortable as a silent fear spread through her body. What am I trying to do? Of course I want to fuse with you. Isn't it great that I'll fulfill your wish? Dustless retorted as he stared at Tokisaki Kurumi. His eyes instantly turned into Sharingan as his eye power surged violently. Kimui. A twisting whirlpool appeared above Tokisaki Kurumi, and she was swallowed before she could react. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 reviews plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 21-28. In an unfamiliar space, the sky was dark and gloomy. There was no sun, no blue sky, and no white clouds. The so-called sky was just a hazy darkness. What is this place? An extra-dimensional space? Tokisaki Kuzo looked left and right with a dazed expression. Her watery eyes widened as she looked around. No matter how she looked at it, this silent world was like a living hell. Is this Dustless's doing? What an incredible man. He always manages to shock others. Shoving her finger into her mouth, Tokisaki Kurumi said in distress. This fellow is too weird. I shouldn't have challenged a man. Tokisaki Kurumi was filled with regret. She looked at this unfamiliar world and felt helpless. Her ability was meaningless in this world. Ever since she was born, Tokisaki Kurumi had killed countless people. Among the enemies she had encountered, Dustless was the most monstrous. Whether it was Tashiichi Origami from AST or Changi Ashina, they were all nothing compared to Dustless. They were just clowns. Tokisaki Kurumi would rather face 10 Changi Ashinas than fight Dustless. His ability was always so shocking and incomprehensible. However, to be able to use such a powerful ability, you're indeed worthy of being the man I value. Soon, the haze on Tokisaki Kurumi's face disappeared without a trace. It was replaced by a crisp laughter. Her fair face was extremely adorable. Tokisaki Kurumi was like a shape-shifting demoness. No one knew what she was thinking. You're in trouble, yet you can still laugh. This is worthy of praise. Your mentality is very good. A faint ripple appeared in the void. A gap slowly enlarged, and Dustless walked out from it. His clean-cut face, wise and confident eyes, and that almost natural indifference. His eyes that were as calm as still water seemed to be able to see through everything. Nothing could escape Dustless's control. Little man, why did you imprison me? Don't tell me you're really going to push me down? Aye. Although I don't mind having a beautiful night with you. Don't you think it's too boring to do that kind of thing in this kind of place with dark clouds covering the sun? Tokisaki Kurumi's words were glib as her eyes narrowed into crescents. Her perfect face coupled with her soft voice was as smooth as silk, making it hard for anyone to reject her. It had to be said that Tokisaki Kurumi was a perfect person. Although she wasn't flawless, she was very skilled in dealing with men. Knowing that she couldn't defeat Dustless with her own strength, she immediately adopted a soft approach. Spoil sport? So what? Do you have a choice now? Do you have the right to negotiate with me? Don't get carried away, Tokisaki Kurumi. Dustless looked at her coldly. Although he felt that this girl was not bad, it was absolutely unforgivable for her to make a move on the people he cared about. If you speak so coldly, I will be very sad. Tokisaki Kurumi revealed a sad expression. Her eyes were watery as if she was about to cry. It was truly a pitiful sight. Keep acting. Keep acting. However, Dustless only responded with a sneer. Tokisaki Kurumi's ability to show off was not bad, but it was a pity that she chose the wrong person this time. Dustless was like a stone that didn't understand women's feelings. No matter how Tokisaki Kurumi tried to seduce him, he remained unmoved. Stinking brat, let me out. After a while, seeing that Dustless didn't budge, Tokisaki Kurumi finally couldn't hold it in anymore. She didn't want to spend the rest of her life in this silent world. I'm stronger than you, so what if I don't listen to you? Are you going to bite me? Dustless said coldly. Let's talk nicely. Why don't we both take a step back? If both sides suffer, it will only benefit AST. Tokisaki Kurumi looked at Dustless with a helpless smile. Her tone was inevitably weaker than before. I'm stronger than you. Dustless's reply was the same as before. Bastard, don't be so shameless. Tokisaki Kurumi's face was ashen. I'm stronger than you. You. Hearing this, Tokisaki Kurumi looked at Dustless with hatred. Her heart was filled with bitterness. Just as Dustless said, he was stronger than her, and could easily take the life of the weak. On the other hand, Tokisaki Kurumi had no choice. How about this? Taking a deep breath, Tokisaki Kurumi had no choice but to throw caution to the wind. I swear, I won't trouble you anymore. How about you let me out? In the future, we'll go our separate ways. I'm stronger than you. My words are final. Dustless looked up at the sky. His words made Tokisaki Kurumi vomit blood. You're ruining my good impression of you. Don't be like this, okay? Tokisaki Kurumi laughed, but her face was twitching. It was obvious that she was forcing a smile. Her true intention was to beat Dustless to death. You want to go back? Sure, kneel down and give me a massage. With a wave of his hand, a stool appeared at Dustless's feet. He sat on it with a satisfied expression and closed his eyes to rest. You brat, don't push your luck. Seeing this, Tokisaki Kurumi clenched her teeth in anger. Her eyes turned red. This damn brat is too much of a bully. He wants me to massage his annoying enemy's back? Dream on. Then don't go out for the rest of your life. Goodbye. As soon as he finished speaking, the void around Dustless rippled and gradually swallowed his body. Wait, you win. I agree. Seeing that Dustless was about to disappear, Tokisaki Kurumi panicked. If she was the only one left in this dead world, she might as well kill herself. She quickly agreed to Dustless's condition. You want to fight with me? I'll play you to death this time. Dustless smiled without saying a word. He sat on the chair and crossed his legs comfortably. If you don't work hard, I'll let you spend the rest of your life in this world and slowly torture you. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 reviews plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 21-29. Tokisaki Kurumi was also having a headache. Rather than spending the rest of her life alone in this world, it would be better to just kill her. The most horrifying way to die wasn't to suffer all kinds of torture or pain, but to live in a completely different world without anyone to communicate with, and without the concept of time. Living in such an environment for a long time would drive one crazy. Serve me well if you know what's good for you. If you anger me, you'll have to bear the consequences. Dustless was lying on the chair comfortably. Behind him was Tokisaki Kurumi, who was unwilling but could only endure. Brat, don't be so smug. If you fall into my hands in the future. Tokisaki Kurumi's eyes flickered with resentment. All along, she had been pranked by Dustless many times and had accumulated a bellyful of resentment. Sadly, Dustless was always one step ahead of her, and she was always the one suffering. Just you wait. Standing behind Dustless, Tokisaki Kurumi pinched Dustless's shoulder. Although it was a massage, her face was filled with displeasure. She wanted to strangle Dustless to death. Be gentler. Dustless's eyes rolled as he scolded. Be careful or I'll throw you into this world and lock you up for 10 years. There won't be anyone or any life to accompany you. You'll only be left with eternal loneliness. I'll bear with it. Tokisaki Kuzo was also helpless against Dustless's methods. He looked around the dark world and couldn't help but shiver. To be imprisoned in such a place where people were neither human nor ghosts was better off dead. Not bad. You have the potential to be a maid. Dustless's face was filled with pleasure. After being scolded by him, Tokisaki Kurumi's techniques were much more delicate and appropriate. Now that he thought about it, the old saying was right. If you don't punish someone for 3 days, they'll become unruly. Sometimes, arrogant women like Tokisaki Kurumi needed to be taught a lesson to make them obedient. Time flew by, and unknowingly, a few hours had passed. This guy really knows how to enjoy himself. Tokisaki Kurumi massaged her sore shoulders in anger. Every time she met Dustless, she would be filled with anger and frustration. But she had nowhere to vent it, which made her feel especially aggrieved. Hey, you should let me go. You actually fell asleep? Seeing that Dustless was ignoring her, Tokisaki Kurumi walked over and saw Dustless squinting his eyes with a serene expression. His breathing was even. Take a closer look. This fellow is only not annoying when he's sleeping. She stared at Wu Chen's face. The more she looked at his handsome face, the more interesting it felt. It gave her a feeling of reliability and trustworthiness. Tokisaki Kurumi couldn't help but move closer to Wu Chen. Their cheeks were almost touching. Should I take this opportunity to ambush her? Tokisaki Kuzo's eyes darted around. At this moment, Dustless was full of openings. His entire body was full of openings. A sneak attack would definitely succeed. If you want to take this opportunity to kill me, then save it. Don't do anything stupid. An indifferent voice suddenly sounded. Tokisaki Kurumi glanced over and saw that Dustless had already opened his eyes. His deep and bright eyes were calmly looking at Tokisaki Kurumi. He seemed to have a card up his sleeve. Hee. Tokisaki Kurumi giggled and distanced herself from Dustless. It was best to distance herself from such a dangerous person. Can you let me go now? Tokisaki Kurumi blinked her seductive eyes and asked. Of course, but... Dustless smiled and glanced at Tokisaki Kurumi a few more times before retracting his gaze. He closed his eyes and ignored Tokisaki Kurumi. Are you trying to go back on your word? Tokisaki Kurumi's white oval face was filled with anger. If it wasn't for the fact that she had no other choice, she would have beaten Dustless to death. It was bad enough that this brat was despicable, but now he wanted to burn the bridge after crossing the river. She had already massaged his back and legs. This brat wanted to go back on his word after enjoying himself. I will naturally abide by the agreement. You can rest assured. Dustless gave the girl a comforting look, indicating for her to relax. He then said indifferently, as the saying goes, one must always be wary of others. What if you still try to harm Toka and the others after I let you go? Tokisaki Kurumi's mouth trembled as she took a deep breath to calm her emotions. She forced a smile and said, I can swear that I will never harm you again. I still don't believe you. Dustless looked at Tokisaki Kurumi with suspicion. Then what do you want to do? Kill me? Tokisaki Kurumi suppressed her anger and asked. Wu Chen sorted out his thoughts and replied. It's very simple. From now on, you will follow me, just like 10 fragrances and 4 elements. You want to restrict my freedom? Wishful thinking. Tokisaki Kurumi rejected decisively. Following Dustless around all day was equivalent to having her freedom restricted. It was worse than death. Then you should reflect on your actions, Miss Tokisaki Kurumi. Dustless said without a care. His gaze did not change. He had already expected Tokisaki Kurumi to reject his terms, so he was not surprised. I still have things to do, so I won't play with you anymore. Goodbye. I will come again when you are enlightened. The space above Dustless's head rippled as a gap grew bigger and bigger, quickly swallowing Dustless's body. You have to bring me along if you want to leave. Tokisaki Kurumi's gaze froze as she stomped on the ground and jumped up to grab Dustless's right leg. Childish. Activating the glint fruit, Dustless's right leg turned into elemental energy. Naturally, Tokisaki Kurumi's hand missed and fell to the ground pathetically. At the same time, Dustless returned to the real world. In fact, Dustless had wanted to imprison Tokisaki Kurumi for a long time. This girl was extremely ambitious and would use any despicable means to achieve her goals. Tokisaki Kurumi had killed countless people and had no bottom line. For the safety of others, he could only imprison Tokisaki Kurumi temporarily, hoping that she would come to her senses one day and repent. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2130. After solving Tokisaki Kurumi's problem, Dustless leisurely escaped from the Kamui space. His face was as calm as a breeze, and he had a gentle smile on his face. In the future, he won't have to worry about Tokisaki Kurumi anymore. Time is merciless, and sooner or later, her patience and sharpness will be exhausted. In the end, she will succumb under Dustless's feet. Bang, bang, bang. Inside the Kamui space, it was just as Dustless had predicted. Tokisaki Kurumi discovered that there was no exit in this world. She stomped her feet in frustration, venting her frustrations and depression. However, her 2 pairs of delicate feet collapsed, and no one responded to her. Is it really as Dustless said? Am I the only one in this world? Tokisaki Kurumi's eyes widened as she looked around. She wanted to drag the entire world into her eyes, but after looking around for a long time, she didn't find a single person. No, let alone a person. She didn't even find a single life form. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 1 day, 2 days. Tokisaki Kurumi finally confirmed that this was a dead space without any life. After another 2 days, Tokisaki Kurumi realized that she couldn't endure it any longer. Wasting her time alone was worse than death. Dustless, come out. I agree to your conditions. Tokisaki Kurumi's cries filled the Kamui space. Her sorrowful tone was filled with longing and reluctance to part with this world. After all, she was still a young girl, and it was normal for her to yearn for the bustling outside world. Tokisaki Kurumi felt a chill run down her spine at the thought of being a lonely ghost in a dead space. Dustless, come out. I know you're watching from a corner. I admit defeat. I agree to your conditions. Come out. Tokisaki Kurumi screamed hysterically, but what made her collapse was that no one responded to her in this boundless world. Everything was looking at her coldly. During this period, Dustless naturally noticed Tokisaki Kurumi's transformation. He was like a wooden block as he watched Tokisaki Kurumi's transformation. Only by completely obliterating the persistence in her heart will this woman be sensible. If I let this woman out now, I might just be releasing a hungry wolf. Let her continue to starve for the time being. Dustless mumbled. At the same time, he looked at the girls who were dressing up and frowned. It's just a concert. Is there a need to make it so grand? Of course, you don't understand a girl's thoughts. Murasame Rain rolled her eyes at Dustless, and her tone was full of resentment. It seemed that she was still upset about being spanked by Dustless last time. In front of the person she likes, a girl always wants to show her perfect self, so she must dress carefully. Is that so? Dustless muttered as he looked at the scenery outside the window. His empty eyes were a little dazed for a moment. By the way, I heard from Kotori that you captured Tokisaki Kurumi alive and imprisoned her? Murasame Rain took a sip of her coffee and looked at Dustless with a questioning gaze. That's right. Dustless nodded slightly and didn't hide it. He told Kotori about the news of imprisoning Tokisaki Kurumi 2 days ago. Do you want to collect her data? Dustless asked softly. He closed his eyes and said calmly, that's possible. You agreed so easily? Is this still the Dustless I know? The one who bargains for everything? Murasame Rain stared at Dustless with a strange smile on her face. She immediately shook her head. No, it's useless to collect Tokisaki Kurumi's data. That woman is very smart. The so-called data we collected before was deliberately falsified by her, and we suffered a big loss. You should continue to imprison her. Although it's a bit unfair to Tokisaki Kurumi, it's not a bad thing to wear down her spirit. Murasame Rain added. She seemed to agree with Dustless's method. Since you said so, then I'll do as you say. Dustless couldn't help but look at Murasame Rain a few more times. He was quite surprised. He thought that Murasame Rain would definitely ask him to release Tokisaki Kurumi, who knew that this time she was unexpectedly easy to talk to. Well, Dustless Korin, let's go see the concert of Night Tempter Magio. A few extremely eye-catching young girls walked out of their respective bedrooms excitedly and bounced towards Wu Chun. The joy on everyone's face was clearly visible. You guys are very beautiful. Dustless was stunned for a few seconds, and then he smiled and gave them a thumbs up. His eyes swept past Yatatoka, Shirinai, Yatu and Yatu. He couldn't help but nod, showing an expression of appreciation. They were originally the type with exquisite features and outstanding looks. Now that they had spent a lot of effort on makeup, their appearances became even more impeccable. Every one of them was gorgeously dressed, as dazzling as the bright moon in the night sky. Why aren't you leaving? If you have time to be long-winded here, it's better to find a good place to rest early. Night Tempter Meijio's concert is very popular. Seeing Dustless and others in a daze, Itsuka Kotori hurriedly scolded with dissatisfaction. Why didn't I see Wu Chun, that stinking brat, praise me? Damn it! Could it be because 10 Fragrance and the others are wearing too revealing clothes? Kotori mumbled in her heart. Due to the fact that she still had to work, Kotori was still wearing the same commander uniform as before. She had a cute necktie, and she subconsciously exuded a dignified aura. Her 2 slanted eyes were very bright, and she gave off a heroic vibe. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2131. It was a woman's nature to love beauty. After Wu Chen's praise, everyone's face was surging with cheerful smiles. Their hearts were also filled with indescribable excitement. Even though they knew that Wu Chen was flattering them, they were still exceptionally happy. Sometimes, mushy words were disgusting, but they were the most useful. Let's go. That seductive Meijio is a troublesome character. Murasame Rain reminded them. They had investigated Meijio before and found that this girl was very similar to Itsuka Kotori. She was also a human with the power of an elf, and she had a very strange fetish, being a lesbian. It will be much harder to take down this elf than before. Itsuka Kotori sighed. Seductress Meijio's personality was very strange. She hated men so much that her favorability would drop below that of a cockroach. You have to do your best, Dustless. Itsuka Kotori gave Dustless an encouraging look and prayed silently. Meijio's concert was at the square in front of the Tachibana station in the western part of Heavenly Palace City. It took Dustless and his group about 10 minutes to arrive. Are you kidding me? It's just a concert. Why are there so many people? After getting out of the car, Dustless looked at the scene in front of him in shock. From afar, the whole square was filled with people. It was almost like a sea of people. It was so crowded that it was difficult to move. Let's wait patiently. This is the reason why we're late. If we were a little earlier, there would be even more people, and we might even be stuck on the road. Itsuka Kotori rolled her eyes. She wasn't surprised by this at all. Do you want me to chase these people away? Night Sword God Toka blinked her eyes and looked at Dustless expectantly. It seemed like she only needed one command from Dustless, and she would do it. This guy, Itsuka Kotori, was speechless. In the past, Toka's favorability towards Dustless was 100%. Now she had evolved into a love-struck fool. What frustrated Itsuka Kotori the most was that Dustless did not invest in her at all. All he did was take her out to eat all sorts of delicacies. This caused Toka to like Dustless even more. Leave it to me, this is a piece of cake. 8 Dance Yagiya patted her chest and promised. Then a large amount of spiritual energy fluctuations erupted from her body. Boom boom boom. The originally bright sky was suddenly filled with strong winds. It was as if a tornado had suddenly appeared. Many people who were caught off guard were blown away by the wind. What a bunch of unscrupulous people. How dare they release their spiritual energy in broad daylight? Aren't they afraid of being discovered by the other members of AST? Well, it makes sense. Birds of a feather flock together. Dustless is always acting like the boss of the world. His friends don't follow the rules either. In a corner about 10 meters away from Itsuka Kotori and the others, a thin girl wearing a hat was observing Toka and the others with her watery eyes. She did not want to let go of any loopholes. Of course, the girl noticed Yagiya's actions. She glanced at the mysterious girl who was secretly observing Toka and the others. Even though she was wearing a hat, it was hard to hide her beautiful and peaceful face. Her lively eyes were bright and lively. The girl was also holding a small bag of hardtack in her hand. She was eating while observing Toka and the others. Strange, where did Dustless go? Her gaze suddenly flickered a few times, and the biscuit that was stuffed into her mouth was also abruptly put down. Unknowingly, Wu Chen was like a ghost that came and went without a trace, and disappeared from the girl's clear eyes. Girl, are you looking for me? You're not here to spy on me, are you? A large, warm hand suddenly clasped the young girl's shoulder from behind. The mysterious man looked at the young girl in front of him with a faint smile on his face. "Who is it?" The girl's heart skipped a beat. The moment she turned around, she saw a familiar face. She asked subconsciously, "Dustless? Did you notice me?" The girl who was secretly monitoring Dustless and the others was Toka Origami. Wu Chen nodded and said with a light smile, "Of course I noticed. Since the moment we left home, you have been secretly following us." Toka Origami bit her lips and whispered, "Don't tell me you have eyes behind your head as well? You guessed it right." "No, I didn't." Dustless shook his finger and said calmly, "You want to get close to me without me noticing? You're still far from it. All right, now tell me your purpose." Toka Origami obviously hesitated. She lowered her head and her eyes flashed with a strange luster. "Is it hard to say?" Dustless frowned and touched the girl's embarrassed face. He did not make things difficult for the girl and smiled gently. "If that's the case, you don't have to tell me. I might have already thought of it. When you kill or capture the elves, I just hope you can stay away from me." Yuichi Origami took a deep breath and looked around. After making sure that there were no AST members around, she pulled Dustless into the corner. She stood on her tiptoes and said softly, "You have to be careful these days. The higher-ups have made a secret plan, and they might want to deal with you." "Deal with me?" Hearing this, Dustless laughed and said casually, Come on. I'll smash as many people as you come." "You misunderstood me. It's not about dealing with you." Toka Origami shook her head. After hesitating for a few seconds, she remembered that Dustless saved her parents. She gritted her teeth and said, "I heard that they might be dealing with Toka. You have to be careful." "Toka?" Wu Chen's pupils suddenly constricted a few times, and a dense viciousness flashed across his face. In his eyes, there was even a trace of soul-stirring ghastly killing intent. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2132. You Dustless. Are you okay? You looked so scary just now. Toichi Origami looked at Dustless, whose expression had changed greatly, and instinctively took a few steps back. His scarlet eyes were filled with a gloomy aura of death. Even the sharp-eyed Toichi Origami could see that there was a chill rolling in the air around Dustless. Toichi Origami's face was as pale as frost. She found that her chest seemed to be carrying a mountain. It was difficult to breathe, and she could suffocate at any time. It seems that the Night Sword God Toka is Dustless's beloved daughter, and those girls are probably the same. As long as we dare to touch them, we will inevitably suffer a disaster. I hope that the higher-ups can give up this unrealistic plan and don't burn themselves." Toichi Origami's face was unusually stiff. The aura that disappeared in an instant just now gave her the illusion that AST had challenged a devil who had done all kinds of bad things, and she could be crushed by the furious Dustless at any time. "I'm fine." Dustless softly responded and looked at Toichi Origami a few more times. His tone had a rare trace of gentleness. "Origami, if I remember correctly, your original purpose of joining AST was to avenge your parents and destroy the elves, right? I hope that there will no longer be a child in the world who has the same tragedy as you." "Yes." Toichi Origami nodded slightly and said bluntly, "When I learned that my parents were killed by the elves, I hated the elves to the core. So, I resolutely joined AST and underwent hellish training. Today, I finally have some small achievements." "Small achievements?" Wu Chen laughed involuntarily and scratched the girl's delicate nose. "You're already the strongest in AST. Among the humans, you're also second to none. Don't belittle yourself. Besides, your situation is different from others." At this point, Dustless suddenly became silent. As a transmigrator, he knew some unknown inside stories. Toichi Origami was not only a member of AST, but she was also a proper elf. Besides what? Seeing that Dustless was silent and his eyes were flickering, no one knew what he was thinking. Origami asked curiously, Is there something special about me? Of course there is. You will find out in the future. Dustless responded with a smile. It was better to keep silent for the time being. In the future, Origami would understand. Now that your parents have been resurrected, your hatred towards the elves must have dissipated, right? Why don't you leave AST? You and Shirxiang are classmates, so you know her personality. Dustless's words were shocking. He wanted to poach AST and pull Yuichi Origami into his camp. Koichi Origami fell silent. Although her hatred for Itsuka Kotori had disappeared, it was still difficult for her to integrate into Dustless's team in an instant. Although my relationship with Nightblade God Toka is not harmonious, it is undeniable that she is indeed a good girl. Yuichi Origami sighed. She still believed in her own vision. That's right. There's no such thing as good or bad in this world. Even if there is a bad person, they have the right to repent and start over. Moreover, AST can't judge a person's good or bad. Dustless said softly, and then explained lazily. Besides, don't you think the organization behind you is strange? They used to kill elves, but this time they want to capture Shirxiang alive. Don't you have doubts about this? Origami, in my heart, you have always been a very smart girl. Really? Origami's little face blushed. Obviously, she was a little shy. This was the first time she heard Dustless praise her. Of course. Dustless nodded seriously and said in a deep voice, Itsuka Shido's sister, Chongoya Shina, is a living example. I hope you will not follow in her footsteps. Origami's face suddenly stiffened, and a flash of gloominess flashed across her face. It seems that you also understand Chongoya Shina's physical condition. That's for the best. I don't have to explain any more nonsense. There are some things that I don't need to explain to you. You should understand that in this world, anything related to the organization is absolutely not clean. After peeling off the bright outer layer, you will find that the soul inside is just a rotten apple. Dustless took a deep look at Origami, who was in a daze, and then left. Night Beauty Jio's concert was about to start. If Shirxiang and the others could not find him, they might do something out of line. Wait a minute. Dustless had just taken a few steps when Origami stopped him. If one day I leave AST, will you take me in? Origami's watery eyes were wide open and unusually lively. Although she kept calm, Dustless could still hear some palpitation in her tone. It was enough to see that Origami was very nervous at the moment. That's for sure. Dustless answered seriously. Even if it's for a lifetime, as long as you don't feel bored and sleepy, you can stay at any time. My door here is always open for you. Are you sure? Origami's eyes suddenly lit up, and she looked at Dustless with a happy face. Seeing the girls cheering, Dustless could not help but be speechless. What he said was completely from the bottom of his heart. Even if he took Origami in, at most, he would add an extra pair of chopsticks. It was no big deal. Perhaps in Origami's heart, she misunderstood the meaning of Dustless's words, which was why she was so excited. Moi. While Dustless was complaining in his heart, Origami left her lips on Dustless's cheek without leaving a trace. Remember to keep your promise in the future. As soon as her voice fell, Origami skipped away. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2133. Girls these days are so unrestrained. Wu Chen rubbed the remaining water stains on his cheeks, and his face was filled with helplessness. Looking at the back of Yuichi Origami, Wu Chen knew that he would never get rid of this burden in the future. In other words, Tabichi Origami was going to follow him for the rest of her life. Is it because I brought her parents back to life that Tabichi Origami is grateful to me? Dustless mumbled to himself as he walked toward Itsuka Kotori and the others. Seriously, the concert is about to start. Why are you still walking around? Aren't you afraid of losing your way? Itsuka Kotori put her hands on her waist and said aggressively. I'm not a person with no sense of direction. Dustless was speechless. He didn't know when Itsuka Kotori started to pick on him. Looks like I'll have to wait for a while. Looking at the sea of people in front of him, the entrance was almost full. It would take at least 10 minutes for them to enter the venue. I'm going to buy some juice, I'll be back soon. As soon as he finished speaking, Dustless left in a carefree manner. He didn't even give Kotori a chance to refute. He directly transformed into a gust of wind and drifted away in an exceptionally carefree and ethereal manner. Damn you, you're fast. Itsuka Kotori crossed her arms and stomped her feet. Commander. Seeing Dustless leaving, Rain Murasame came over and giggled. Didn't you notice? You've been picking on Dustless recently, especially when it comes to girls. Did I? Itsuka Kotori frowned and said proudly. Why would I do that? I would never pick on a petty man like him. It must be your illusion. Illusion? Rain Murasame rolled her eyes. She wasn't the only one who thought so. Many people thought Itsuka Kotori was doing it on purpose. Especially after Dustless sealed Itsuka Kotori's power last time. The feeling was even more obvious. Seriously, you want me to watch a concert with a bunch of young people? Are you kidding me? Dustless complained in front of the vending machine. Dustless had lived for too long. Although he looked young, he was old enough to be their ancestor. It was normal for young people to have different thoughts. It's about time. Dustless looked at the plastic juice and nodded with satisfaction. Not only were there soft drinks and soft drinks, there were also snacks that Tabichi liked. Bang! The instant he turned around and left, Dustless suddenly bumped into a figure. Moreover, because Dustless's strength was too great, he directly knocked that figure to the ground. Sorry, I didn't mean it. After seeing it was a girl, Dustless scratched his head awkwardly and quickly helped the girl who fell to the ground. Stay away from me, stinky man. Who would have thought that as soon as Wu Chen touched the other party's boneless jade hand? The girl who was bumped into by Wu Chen immediately screamed as if she had met the most feared cockroach or mouse. It's really hateful. The concert will start soon. I wanted to buy a glass of juice to moisten my throat. I didn't expect to encounter such a thing. The girl complained and stood up. Her resentment rose to the sky. You are. After Dustless retracted his arm, he stared at the girl in front of him with some surprise and subconsciously asked, That are you Miss Seducing Meijio? Unexpectedly, the girl just snorted and looked at Wu Chen seriously. When she saw his white skin, she was shocked. Then she sighed silently. You're so beautiful. Why are you a man? It would be great if it was a girl. Due to some shadows in the past, Seducing Meijio hated men very much and hated them to the bone. Don't think that you can forget it after bumping into me and apologizing. Seducing Meijio stared at Dustless and swept her eyes over him. She seemed to be thinking about how to get Dustless to compensate her with something valuable. Seducing Meijio, what do you want? Dustless asked faintly. You have to call me Lord. Seducing Meijio stared at Dustless with her eyes. Lord. Dustless raised his eyebrows slightly and couldn't help but take a few more glances at the girl. Immediately he said coldly, You are quite beautiful, but your temper is too bad. Forgive me for not accompanying you. Goodbye. As his voice fell, Dustless ignored Seducing Meijio's stunned eyes and left her with his back view. You bastard dare to ignore me? Seducing Meijio was stunned. Her eyes widened and she immediately pinched her skin a few times. The intense pain made her realize that this was not a dream. Seducing Meijio was ignored by a man, no, by a cockroach. Outrageous. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Seducing Meijio didn't know where the strength came from. Seducing Meijio just jumped and blocked Dustless in front of her. She immediately scolded angrily. Why are you so impolite? Do you have any manners? Do you think you can just apologize after bumping into others and dirtying their clothes? And do you know who I am? What I said before was nonsense. You mainly want to ask if I know you, right? Dustless pointed to the huge billboard. There was a portrait of a girl on it that was exactly the same as Seducing Meijio. He said, You are that Seducing Meijio, right? You sing very well, but whether you sing well or not, it has nothing to do with me. Dustless was very rude and sarcastic. He was not the kind of person who chased after stars or was unable to walk when he saw a beauty. Although seducing Meijio's appearance was not bad, and she belonged to the type who was good at both literature and martial arts, Dustless knew a lot of such beautiful women. There were even many female confidants in the system who were more outstanding than seducing Meijio. Hearing this, seducing Meijio trembled with anger. Since her debut in fame, this was the first time someone had degraded her as worthless. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus more chapters, 3,000 rewards plus more chapters, 1,000 comments plus more chapters, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more chapters. Chapter 2134. What about you? Do you have any opinion? I tell you, I have seen countless beautiful women in my life. In the eyes of those people, you are very ordinary and plain. Dustless suddenly attacked. And this proud girl was really self-righteous. Dustless also knew that Temptress Meijio had a shadow and was more hostile to men, but she couldn't kill a boat of men because of a scum. Good boy, you have guts. Temptress Meijio bit her thin lips and glared. When she was about to teach Dustless a lesson, she suddenly saw the concert ticket in his hand and suddenly giggled. She was like a blooming snow lotus, elegant and refined. She was different. Although she was very cold and piercing, it was difficult to dislike her. Although this chick is a little proud, I have to say that she does have the capital to be proud. The crisp laughter was like the sound of nature, just like the code name of Temptress Meijio as an elf, songstress. Her talent in singing was really superior. You keep saying that you hate me, but you still came to my concert. Is this a confession without being pressed? With her hands on her hips, Temptress Meijio's aura was very strong and domineering. Her exquisite gem-like eyes were full of the luster of a winner. It seemed that she had already seen the scene of defeating Dustless. Don't call me boy, my name is Dustless. I am enough to be your grandfather. Dustless responded plainly. You. Temptress Meijio was angry and said angrily. Dustless, right? Don't change the subject for me. You haven't answered my question yet. Did you see it? Wu Chen shook the plastic bag in his hand and said with boredom, I'm just accompanying others to your concert. This is your good fortune from your previous life. You. Temptress Meijio glared at Dustless fiercely, and her silver teeth were almost broken. Can this hateful bastard speak more irritating? Who is Temptress Meijio? She was the goddess of countless men's dreams. Her heavenly voice had won the hearts of countless men. Among her fans, 90% were men. However, this bastard in front of her didn't give her any face. He even mocked her time and time again. It was simply unforgivable. You'll be my slave soon. Tempting night beauty Jio's lips curled into a cold arc. She suddenly cleared her throat, and a pleasant song came out of her mouth. The rhythm was very good, the intonation was very elegant and gentle, and the voice was also very magnetic and soft. It sounded quite good. However, Dustless wasn't interested in it. He just stared at the entrance in the distance. When he saw that Itsuka Kotori and the others were about to enter the venue, he muttered to himself, Time's up, let's go back. Leaving such a sentence, Wu Chen turned around and left. You don't go? Hey, are you kidding me? You came here to listen to my concert, and now I'm singing for you alone. How blissful is that? Do you understand? Temptress Meijio was dumbfounded. She stared at Wu Chen, who was leaving straight away. For a moment, she was dumbfounded. As long as she called, she didn't know how many men would go through water and tread on fire for her and agree to all her requests. But what was the matter with this hateful stinky brat? He's really a stone in the latrine pit. He's smelly and stubborn. Are you crazy? Dustless turned around and said to Temptress Meijio. She said coldly, I'll say it again. Your brother's singing is good. What does it have to do with me? I'm just here to accompany someone else. And, do you see this? Dustless took out 2 pieces of ear cotton and said very seriously, I'll sleep when you sing later. To be honest, I'm afraid that you'll disturb my sleep. Goodbye, don't call me again. You bastard, stop right there. I didn't allow you to leave. Temptress Meijio quickly chased after Dustless. Unfortunately, She was too slow and didn't manage to grab hold of his hand. Despicable brat. You forced me to do this. Seeing this, Temptress Maggio was furious. She clasped her hands together and sang again with a devout expression. The sound of nature once again came out of her throat. It also had a special power that she had never had before. This is, when the song entered Dustless's ears, his body suddenly stopped. Moreover, his eyes were empty and he was very dull. He had turned into a walking corpse. Come here. Temptress Maggio smiled arrogantly. This time Dustless didn't violate Temptress Maggio's will. He turned around obediently. His eyes were hazy. It was obvious that he had been controlled by Temptress Maggio's singing. You still want to fight with me? Despicable men are all the same. Temptress Maggio said disdainfully. She immediately hooked her white fingers and smiled charmingly. Come here. As soon as her voice fell, Dustless walked over in a daze. I'm so tired. Temptress Maggio sighed. After talking to Dustless for a while, she was very angry. She immediately glared at Dustless fiercely. Watch how I deal with you. At the same time, Dustless also walked over to Temptress Maggio. His eyes were already dull. Temptress Maggio was very satisfied when she saw Dustless's appearance. You fought with me and said so many disgusting words. Don't think that I will let you go so easily. Xiao Maggio curiously walked around Dustless and whispered. This guy is so beautiful and his skin is so white. It's even better than mine. It's hard to suspect that he's a boy. How disappointing. Temptress Maggio lamented. Her dead heart suddenly throbbed. She sincerely hoped that Dustless was a fair and beautiful girl. But Temptress Maggio stared at Itsuka Kotori and the others. She stroked her chin and smiled. Leave your female companions to me. I will serve them well. Temptress Maggio chuckled, but she didn't see Dustless's cold smile. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus more chapters, 3,000 rewards plus more chapters, 1,000 reviews plus more chapters, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more chapters. Chapter 2135. How should I deal with you, brat? You are so disrespectful to me. I can't let you go so easily. I must leave you with an unforgettable shadow. Temptress Maggio circled around Dustless, fiddling with her slender fingers. Her watery eyes flickered. She was obviously thinking about how to deal with Dustless. Kneel down. Temptress Maggio's eyes rolled, and she ordered seriously. However, Dustless didn't appreciate it. Like a stone, he stood motionless. His dull eyes were empty, without the slightest emotion. You don't listen to me? How is that possible? You were obedient just now. Temptress Maggio looked at Dustless in a daze. Her eyes were wide open, and she looked like a curious baby. Could it be that my ability has failed? Temptress Maggio frowned. In desperation, she cleared her throat and immediately sang a song again. She tried to control Dustless again, and make this guy obey her orders. The beautiful and pleasant song came out of Temptress Maggio's mouth again. Unfortunately, Dustless still stood motionless like a stone. Temptress Maggio was suddenly dumbfounded. She ordered Dustless to kneel down again, but the other party ignored her. Impossible, my ability can't fail. Temptress Maggio's eyes were uncertain. A terrible thought suddenly emerged in her mind. If her ability disappeared, what should she do? Your ability didn't fail, but it doesn't work on me. At this moment, Dustless spoke lazily. His dull eyes also recovered the flickering spirit. There was a sarcastic arc at the corner of his mouth. You are okay? Temptress Maggio's small mouth was round and full of confusion. Dustless still obeyed her orders just now. Of course I am okay. If you can control me, then I would have been torn into pieces. I just want to tell you, don't overestimate yourself. In my eyes, you're just an ordinary person. There's nothing special about you. Dustless said frankly. He did not give any face to Knight Tempter Maggio at all. He laughed gloatingly and said, but your embarrassed expression is very beautiful. Don't be too proud. Knight Temptress Maggio was furious and her body erupted with violent spirit power fluctuations. The void suddenly changed subtly and surging spirit power continued to erupt from her body. The power of the elves. Seems like you have good control over it, but I have something to remind you. Dustless stretched lazily and explained. Your concert is about to start. There are still many AST members lingering around. Are you sure you want to fight me? Just wait and see. Hearing this, Temptress Magio's expression was stiff. She retracted her spiritual power and glared at Dustless fiercely, as if she wanted to remember this hateful face in her heart forever. After taking a deep look at Dustless, he immediately lured Xiao Meiju away. Wait, I haven't asked you to leave yet. In a flash, Dustless blocked in front of Knight Temptress Magio. He teased her figure with a teasing smile, as if he had found a fun toy. Knight Temptress Magio felt a chill and uneasiness. Go away from me, or I won't be polite. Knight Temptress Magio glared at him and threatened him impolitely. You are already not polite. Just now you actually used your spirit power to bewitch me. This is already a provocation to me. If I let you leave safely, wouldn't I lose face? Dustless said slowly. The meaning of his words was to lure Knight Temptress Magio to pay the price. Then what do you want? Fight with me? Are you my opponent? Human. Knight Temptress Magio said disdainfully. She had to admit that although Dustless was a bit evil, she did not think that she was not Dustless's opponent. Of course, I will take it back with interest. With two strange laughs, Dustless's body turned into a destructive streamer. He flashed behind Knight Temptress Magio at an incredible speed, and there was an extremely evil laughter. I heard that you hate men touching you. I just don't believe it. I just want to touch you. Hearing this, Knight Temptress Magio was shocked. Her spirit power erupted, and she quickly left. Still want to run? Ignorant. Dustless snorted coldly. He grabbed Knight Temptress Magio's shoulder in an instant, and he skillfully lifted Knight Temptress Magio's short skirt, revealing her snow-white skin. The white and red perky buttocks were beautiful, and the pure white fat was in his eyes. The scenery was pleasant. Smelly rogue, let go of me. Knight Temptress Magio screamed a few times. Her small face was red, and she struggled quickly. Unfortunately, Knight Temptress Magio's strength was too weak compared to Dustless. It was useless at all. Pa! A slap fell unceremoniously, and a bright red palm print suddenly appeared on the snow-white skin. You dare to hit my buttocks? Knight Temptress Magio looked at the shameless Dustless with a face full of evil interest. At this moment, her beautiful hair stood up, and she wanted to swallow Dustless alive. You still dare to stare at me? Dustless sneered again and again, and then a few more slaps fell unceremoniously. Pa! How about I hit your buttocks? You bite me? But can you beat me? After that, Dustless slapped her again unceremoniously. Pa! How about I hit you? You wanted to control me first, and now I can't retaliate against you? What a domineering, unreasonable and unruly little woman. Dustless ridiculed and unceremoniously taught Knight Temptress Magio a lesson. The slaps sounded for more than a dozen times until Knight Temptress Magio's white skin turned red. Only then did he reluctantly withdraw his hands. Kill you, I'll definitely kill you. Knight Temptress Magio was like a tigress that went berserk. Her eyes emitted a cold light as she looked at the calm Dustless. However, she did not have much confidence in her heart. Sure, if you're not afraid of being hit again, then I'll do as I please. However, the price of provoking me this time will be greater than the dozen slaps just now. Dustless shrugged, and was very indifferent. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2136. You. Aren't you embarrassed to bully a girl? Her white cheeks were flushed red, and after a long time, Tempting Magio finally said such incompetent and sullen words. When her voice fell, even Tempting Magio herself was stunned, as if she did not expect herself to say such cowardly words. In the past, she was the one who bullied others, who dared to challenge her like this. Only Dustless, this weirdo, was not charmed by her, and even humiliated Tempting Magio again and again. Girl? That's rare. Dustless's face showed a faint smile, and he still teased. From what you did before, I don't think you are a girl anymore. It's rare to see a girl as violent and barbaric as you. Are you still a man? You even bully a girl? Hearing this, Temptress Beauty Geo clenched her fists. If it wasn't for the difference in strength, she really wanted to punch this bastard to death. His face was already infuriating enough, but his words were even more infuriating. Dustless laughed twice, and his eyes suddenly became unscrupulous. He stared at tempting Meijio's plump figure. Do you want to try whether I am a man or not? Stinky rogue. Tempting Meijio's face was slightly red, and she spat softly. Am I wrong? Are you a girl? Dustless continued to tease. You are obviously a tigress. Don't be too proud. Unable to bear it any longer, Xiao Meijio was enraged. Surging waves of spiritual force broke out from her body, and the void suddenly distorted. A terrifying sphere spun and occupied the blue sky. Perhaps it would not be long before it became a terrifying spatial earthquake. You want to fight just because of a disagreement? Sure enough, you are a tigress. Looking at the changes in the sky, Dustless was still teasing the girl. His plain face was fearless as he lazily said, Anyway, even if AST is attracted here, those little girls won't find trouble with me. But you seductive beauty Miss Geo, if AST knows that you're an elf, can you still live in peace? Hearing these words, Temptress Meijio's expression suddenly stiffened, and her expression suddenly became extremely gloomy. She took a deep breath, stabilized herself, and retracted her spiritual power. She couldn't wait to beat Wu Chen into a pig's head. She sneered, You win, scum. What did you call me? Scum. Dustless showed a pained expression and said resentfully, Sure enough, Tigress is unreasonable. Just wait and see. A fragrant wind blew in front of Dustless, and then charming Knight Meijio disappeared, forever disappearing from Dustless's sight. You run pretty fast. Staring at the back of Temptress Meijio, Dustless picked up the bag and slowly walked to the concert venue. The whole person looked comfortable, and did not care about the threat of Temptress Meijio. In Dustless's view, this was just asking for humiliation. With the strength of Knight Tempter Meijio, she was still far from being able to shake him. In the concert venue, it was pitch black, and only the stage in front was the most eye-catching. The stage was filled with an overwhelming number of people. Looking around, 9 out of 10 people were male, which was enough to show how popular Temptress Meijio was. Sorry I'm late. Dustless's apologetic voice came from beside Itsuka Kotori's seat. There was a small problem midway, so I was delayed. Small problem? Itsuka Kotori immediately looked at him with dissatisfaction and said with disdain, Someone reported to me that you and Temptress Meijio were flirting with each other. You call that a delay? This guy. Hearing this, Dustless almost spat out the drink in his stomach. He glared at Itsuka Kotori. This guy is trying to teach me a lesson. Sure enough, women are easily jealous. Dustless, you actually went behind my back to hook up with someone else's girl? Yasuya Geya glared at Dustless furiously. I must capture you and tie you up, so you don't go around fooling around in the future. No, the most direct way is to castrate you, or make you infatuated with my body. That's the only way to restrain your heart. Agreed. Taking a look at Dustless, Bazu Shisien also showed dissatisfaction. It was extremely rare for her to stand in the same trench as Bazu Yaguya. Victory and defeat had not been decided between the two of them. How could they let an outsider beat them to it? I think so too. Night Sword God Toka also came over to join in the fun. Lingyin taught me a lot of ways to coax men. I must try them out someday. What nonsense are you talking about? Shut up. Dustless's face darkened, and he scolded angrily. That seductress Meijio is a lesbian. She is only interested in girls. The boys who talk to her are more annoying than cockroaches. In desperation, Dustless could only tell the process and the end of the matter, and all the details in the middle. This is bad. Murasame Rain frowned, staring at the surrounding environment, and said uneasily, Dustless offended seductress Meijio, and we are now in the venue of her concert. This is her territory. As long as seductress Meijio greets us, we will be in danger. She doesn't have the guts. Dustless's mouth raised a faint arc. Seductress Magio thought of him as a jinx and stayed away from him, let alone provoke him. I'm afraid that the word dustless will become her nightmare. Maybe when she has a nightmare in the future, she will meet Dustless's annoying face. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2137. She doesn't have the guts. The corner of Dustless's mouth raised a faint arc. He was full of confidence, tempting Night Magio to treat him as a jinx and stay away from him, let alone provoke him. I'm afraid that the words dustless will become her nightmare. Maybe when she has nightmares in the future, she will meet Dustless's annoying face. Tempting Night Magio herself hates men very much, even more than cockroaches. The reason is actually very simple. When Tempting Night Magio became famous, some entertainment companies wanted to use the unspoken rules on her, but Tempting Night Magio resolutely refused. Some entertainment companies were unwilling to discredit Tempting Night Magio, causing her to be condemned by the public. It was in this moment of worry that Tempting Night Magio obtained the powerful power of the elf and resolved this crisis. Since then, she has become extremely hateful of humans. Although she deserves sympathy, she can't hate all the men in the world because of a group of scumbags. She is unreasonable. Dustless muttered to himself, "Let's just go with the flow. You can watch the concert in peace." Dustless waved his hand and gave everyone a comforting look. At the same time, all the lights on the stage were shining. Tempting Night Magio and her dance and singing partners were standing on the stage very elegantly. She looks, but she is somewhat beautiful. No wonder she is so arrogant. Dustless stared at the girl for a moment. When he met Tempting Night Magio just now, she was not dressed up. She was very casual. It was just an ordinary school uniform, but it was already very outstanding. Now Tempting Night Magio was wearing a noble dress. She was like a fairy who had fallen to the mortal world. She was beautiful and moving. Her big eyes were very smart. Her delicate little face was white and flawless. She was very sacred. Hello everyone. I am Tempting Night Magio. Welcome to my concert. Thank you for your long-term support. Today is a special day. Thank you. Tempting Night Magio gently lifted her dress and immediately bowed with a very elegant expression. There was a comfortable smile on her face. She was very kind and gentle. There was a feeling that one couldn't help but want to open their hearts. Is this still the seductive Magio? When Dustless saw the girl with a smile on her face, he was speechless. He sighed that the showbiz circle was really deep, and people who were too shallow were not suitable for it. When she met Dustless, Night Temptress Magio had a humiliating expression. Now the speed of her face change really made Dustless stunned. He had to raise his middle finger to Night Temptress Magio. The speed at which he changed his expression was faster than flipping through a book. So on this special day, today's concert will be different from the past. In the following time, I will be inviting my fans to sing with me on stage. Temptress Magio's shocking revelation on the stage immediately caused countless male compatriots to cheer. The cheers were loud and they all screamed Temptress Magio's name. A bunch of brainless idiots. To Temptress Magio, you guys are like cockroaches. No, you guys are even more annoying than cockroaches. Seeing this scene, Dustless curled his lips in disdain and sneered. Don't think too much about it. Seducer Magio hates men so much. Why would she sing with you? It's just wishful thinking. Dustless bowed his head and muttered to himself. In fact, he couldn't figure out the purpose of Temptress Magio. For this proud and eccentric woman, Dustless was actually quite helpless. Do you think she will take the opportunity to trouble us? Murasame Ling-in looked over and frowned and said, I have investigated the information of Temptress Magio. This kind of thing has never happened before. This time it's a bit weird. You offended her before. Maybe this is a deliberate revenge. Revenge? Dustless heard the words and laughed twice. I don't care. Let her do it. Anyway, she doesn't regret it. The little girl knows the price. You, Murasame Ling-in gave a big supercilious look. She also had a headache about this. Dustless's temper was so casual. So, now please. At this moment, Temptress Majo suddenly announced loudly. Her moving voice was like delicious honey exuding a tempting fragrance, attracting everyone's attention in an instant. I'd like to see what sort of trouble you're planning to cause. Dustless's sight also looked over. In fact, he was really a little weak in his heart. He could fight, but singing. I hope you don't do anything stupid, Temptress Majo. Dustless muttered in his heart. He immediately stopped looking at Temptress Majo and closed his eyes to rest calmly. But at the moment when Dustless closed his eyes, Dustless suddenly felt a pair of malicious eyes staring at him. He subconsciously opened his eyes and suddenly saw a pair of exquisite eyes like brilliant gems. This guy, is he really going to make me lose face? Dustless's mouth twitched a few times. His eyes looked at each other and found that the person who was looking at him maliciously was Temptress Majo herself. She raised the corners of her thin lips high, and a victorious smile hung on her charming face. Her quick-witted eyes were full of craftiness, and she looked exactly like a mischievous elf. Could it be that she really wants me to sing with her? Dustless frowned and asked. For his singing skills, Dustless naturally knew that he was tone-deaf. Before he crossed over, he went to KTV with his friends to sing and made a lot of jokes, so Dustless had always been a little tired of singing. If he sang with Temptress Majo this time, he would inevitably become the target of public criticism, and his lifetime reputation would be ruined. Ha ha ha. Itsuka Kotori and others suddenly chuckled and looked at Dustless jokingly. At this moment, Dustless's expression was particularly attractive in their eyes. After all, it was the first time that they saw Dustless so depressed. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2138. Ha ha ha. Itsuka Kotori and the others giggled and looked at Dustless mockingly. When they looked up, they saw Dustless's gloomy face. It was the first time they saw Dustless so annoyed. What are you laughing at? Do you want me to beat all of you up? Wu-chan glanced at the girls angrily. His heart was hazy. His gloomy eyes stared at the Temptress Majo. He sincerely hoped that this little girl would not act recklessly. He was good at fighting and killing, but when it came to singing, Dustless wasn't perfect. Although he knew a lot, he wasn't that good at singing. The song that Majo sang was definitely in Japanese. Dustless wasn't good at it. He had never heard of it before. She was purposely making things difficult for Dustless. However, since Majo had made her move, Dustless had no choice but to take it all on. Now let's welcome number 128 to the stage, and sing with me. Majo's crisp voice spread. The audience was as excited as if they had taken drugs. Everyone looked at the seat number excitedly. Damn it, it's not me. Too bad, my goddess is going to sing with someone else. Who is that person? Change seats with me, I'll pay you 1 billion yen. The audience cried out and cursed the lucky number 128. Some people even said that they would pay a lot of money to buy number 128. What's your number? Itsuka Kotori looked at Toka and the others and asked. I'm number 126, Yatsuka said. I'm number 129, Toka Yatsuka said. I'm number 127, Yatsuka said after looking at the seat number under her butt. As soon as she said that, everyone looked at Dustless strangely. He was sitting between Toka and Yatsuka. There was no doubt that he was number 128. This little brat who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth actually dared to scheme against me. Playing with fire will get burned. Even Wu-chan, who had been fixed, was frowning at this moment. His heart, which had not fluctuated for hundreds of years, splashed a faint ripple. Even if tempting night beauty Jio was 20 or 30 meters away, Wu-chan could clearly see her smiling face. I, audience number 128, you're so handsome. I'm offering myself to you. Seductive night beauty looked at Wu-chan playfully. Her watery eyes were full of tender feelings. Her charming eyes were like silk. She had a posture of offering herself to him. Kill him, this bastard deserves to die. Countless male fans had their dreams shattered. Each of them was like an angry tiger, glaring at Dustless with an unfriendly look, as if they wanted to perish together and go to hell together. You are blessed, Wuchen. You have a lot of luck with women. Murasame's voice said. Coquettish fox, you're so blatant. Although Murasame Rain had a gloating expression, the other women all showed dissatisfied expressions. They looked at the seductress Meijio on the stage very unhappily, and they also looked at Wu Chen with resentment. That meant, you said before that you had nothing to do with the seductress Meijio, and you were even an enemy, but now she invited you to sing on the same stage, and you still dare to say that there was no scandal? At the same time, all the audience's eyes were focused on Dustless's head. Everyone was burning with jealousy. They couldn't wait to tear Dustless into pieces. Well, this kid was so lucky. You idiots, she deliberately messed with me and retaliated against me for humiliating her before. This Meijio really knows how to play. She made me the target of public criticism all of a sudden. Dustless found that countless men were looking at him with unkind eyes. They couldn't wait to swallow him alive. He complained incessantly, sighing that he was smart all his life, but now he was stupid. He didn't expect to be defeated by Meijio this time. Besides, not to mention the male audience, even Yada Kami and Toko were staring at Dustless angrily. They were obviously complaining that Dustless went out to attract women. Your private life is too unrestrained. You need to control it. Itsuka Kotori was the first to speak. Control my ass. I didn't do anything. I'm living a pure life like a monk. Dustless looked at Itsuka Kotori and complained. Also, didn't you want me to be the conqueror god? Why did you change your mind? Didn't you want me to conquer fairies every day? I'm trying to persuade you on behalf of Toka and Toka. Itsuka Kotori glared at Dustless and sat down without saying anything. Meijio, since you want to play, I'll play with you. Just don't cry. At this point, Wuchen was no longer entangled. He restrained his complicated thoughts. Under the astonishment of countless people, he calmly walked out of the auditorium and calmly walked to the stage. You want to fight with me? I'll make you cry this time. Meijio was stunned for a second, and then smiled brightly. She thought Dustless would be scared, but he only hesitated for a second, and then walked up to the stage calmly. That was the best outcome. She could embarrass Dustless and make Dustless the public enemy of her fans. He would never have a peaceful life in the future. Thank you for your cooperation. Audience number 128. Meijio had a beautiful smile on her face. When she saw Dustless walk up to her, she whispered, "Kid, just you wait. I won't forgive you for what you did before. The show is about to begin." After being spanked by Dustless, Meijio, who hated men, couldn't take it anymore. It's up to you. Anyway, I don't care. I'll take whatever moves you have. Wu Chen responded casually. He immediately took the microphone sent by Night Tempter Meijio with a calm expression. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus more chapters, 3,000 rewards plus more chapters, 1,000 comments plus more chapters, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more chapters. Chapter 2139. Damn it. Why is this guy asking for a beating? Whoever kills him for me, I'll give him 1 billion yen. Me too. My goddess has been defiled by a pig. Why is that brat so lucky? What god does he believe in? I'll believe in him in the future. That's right. Because Xiao Meijio had said some ambiguous words to Dustless, it caused all the male compatriots to complain about Dustless. Everyone stared at him with extreme displeasure, with a ferocious look, as if they wanted to rush onto the stage and beat up Dustless. This brat actually defiled their goddess. 10,000 deaths would not be enough to absolve him. Your fans are really crazy. But are you planning to use them to deal with me? What a joke. As an elf, I can't do anything to you, let alone this group of people. It's really funny. Children are children. Dustless's cheeks drooped, his lowered gaze spread around, and secretly clenched his fists. If there was an idiot who didn't know what was good for him, he didn't mind teaching him how to behave. No. Xiao Meijio was tempted to approach Dustless. Under the gaze of countless burning eyes, she was very close to Dustless's cheek. She gently blew a breath of hot air on his face and said with a smile full of admiration, "It's because your charm is too great, my dear. I can't help but fall in love with you." These words were like igniting a barrel of gunpowder, and the explosive atmosphere of the entire concert reached its peak. "Damn it, whoever kills that brat, I'll give 10 billion yen. I really regret not bringing the guns that I secretly hid at home. When the concert is over, I'll make him disappear from this world." The male compatriots wailed angrily, glaring at Dustless with murderous eyes, as if Dustless had once killed their biological parents. It had to be said that once the groupies went crazy, they were really terrifying. Even if it was a mountain of knives and a sea of fire, they didn't mind giving it a try. A bunch of idiots. How could they be so easily manipulated? Can't they see that this brat is doing it on purpose? Taking in everyone's gaze, Dustless secretly scolded that there were idiots every year, but there were especially many today. Night Beauty 9 was a lesbian and hated men very much. She must have said that she was infatuated with Dustless on purpose. Her purpose was to help Dustless attract hatred. Ha ha ha. This is going to be a good show. Temptress Meijio smiled coquettishly. Her charming face was filled with schadenfreude. Looking at the angry male audience, she was secretly pleased. She was sure that if she added fuel to the fire, this group of people would rush up and beat up Dustless. Do you feel happy about using your fans? Do you feel a sense of accomplishment? Dustless stared at the face in front of him as he asked in a flat tone. You. Looking at Dustless's eyes, Night Beauty 9 suddenly felt very cold. Looking at Dustless, she had a strange illusion that she was talking to an ice cube. His eyes were calm and filled with endless indifference. Are you admitting defeat? Taking a deep breath, Night Beauty 9 suppressed the throbbing in her heart and asked, If you admit defeat, I will let you go now, but from now on, you will be my slave. Dustless, no, you will be number 001. Are you qualified? Those who dare to talk to me like this have all become a pair of bones. Do you think your end will be better than theirs? The corners of Dustless's mouth curled up slightly, and he asked with contempt. This arrogant girl was too self-righteous. She was just an elf, and she wanted him to surrender. She was simply delusional. In other words, you refuse my conditions? Then don't regret it. Now is my home ground. I can make you the target of public criticism at any time. Night Beauty 9 smiled dangerously, like a fox's smile. She took a deep look at Dustless, and then looked at the tens of thousands of viewers. Obviously, she came up with some bad ideas. Does this guy really think that I am a soft persimmon that can be pinched at will? Dustless frowned slightly, and the corner of his mouth raised a treacherous smile. He laughed in his heart. Night Beauty 9, since you want to play, I will accompany you to the end. Just don't cry in the end. Cough, cough, cough. Today, in front of all my fans, I want to announce a very serious decision that is related to the second half of my life. Night Tempter Meijio held the microphone and her soft voice resounded through the entire venue. Under everyone's gaze, Night Tempter Meijio finally looked at the indifferent and old-fashioned Wu Chun and laughed secretly. Boy, I'll let you bear the consequences. My fans will definitely not let you off. Dustless Koen. Night Beauty 9 whispered softly, and her eyes were blurred. She deserved to be in the entertainment circle. The speed of her face change was absolutely unparalleled. This is bad. Do we need to leave early? Many people saw that we came with Dustless. If we get involved, we will be unlucky. Murasame Rain's eyes were dripping, and she looked around without a trace. She took in the changes in the expressions of the crazy male audience. Everyone looked at Dustless with extreme hatred. This guy had offended the public. There is no doubt that Night Beauty 9 is intentional. The more she flirts with Dustless, the more excited these fans will be. If the situation is out of control, Dustless will be unlucky. It is this guy's fault for attracting bees and butterflies, but he doesn't know that dating should be stopped. Now, it's good to let him be unlucky once. Don't worry about it, just watch with peace of mind. Waving her hand, Itsuka Kotori ordered very seriously. Her crystal pupils were obviously jumping to watch a good show, waiting for Dustless to be unlucky. P.S. 3000 flowers plus updates. 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2140. You. Murasame Rain was also extremely helpless about this, and at the same time, her eyes were locked on Kotori. Her clear eyes penetrated the depths of people's hearts, looking at Kotori without blinking. Is there something wrong? Kotori's eyes moved over, and she didn't dare to look at Murasame Rain's eyes. She was inexplicably panicked by her, and she had an illusion that the biggest secret in her heart was exposed. Commander, you can't be. Murasame Rain leaned close to Kotori's ear and asked carefully, Commander, these days your behavior is very strange. Especially after Dustless sealed your power. You don't like Dustless, do you? Like her? How can it be? Kotori was like a cat whose tail was stepped on. She stood up from her seat and said without thinking, all the men in the world are dead. I can barely consider that scum. Kotori, you. The rest of the group turned their heads to look at Itsuka Kotori with astonishment in their eyes. They were all wondering if she was mentally ill. Even if not, you don't have to be so excited, right? Murasame Rain saw Kotori, who was staring at her, and rolled her eyes. She was so abnormal because she cared. Anyway, it confirmed Murasame Rain's guess. Arrogant brat, I'd like to see what tricks you have up your sleeves. Bring it on. Blink your eyes and I'll be your slave from now on. Lowering his head to look at Night Beauty Jio's delicate little face, Wu Chen's eyes were bright, and his tone was carefree. Not only that, but Wu Chen also looked at Temptress Meijio with a sneer. At this moment, facing the girl's threat, not only was Wu Chen not afraid, but he also ridiculed Temptress Meijio even more, deliberately provoking her. You dare to be arrogant at this time? Do you really think I'm a useless vase? Night Tempter Meijio was obviously not to be trifled with. Her beautiful eyes were full of fire. After taking a deep look at Wu Chen, she immediately looked at the audience with a smile. She looked arrogant, as if she had already seen the wonderful scene of crushing Wu Chen. Today, I have something to announce to everyone. Beauty Jio's eyes were shining, exuding a dazzling brilliance. Her whole body carried a huge momentum, and her gentle eyes gently swept the audience. He, pointing at Dustless, Beauty Jio smiled cunningly. His name is Dustless from today. He is my boyfriend, please take care of him. These words caused the entire place to fall silent. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the Temptress Meijio. Countless sounds of heartbreak could be heard. Ah, my goddess was taken by a pig. Boyfriend? Are you kidding me? Who allowed that? I will never agree. I don't agree. That guy looks like a gigolo. Other than being handsome, what use does he have? The scene took advantage of the situation for a while, and then it caused a huge uproar. Countless male spectators glared at Wu Chen with fire in their eyes. They were filled with anger, and some of them even scolded him. Wu Chen was instantly condemned by everyone, and became the center of the vortex. He was shot back and forth by countless people. Fighting with me? Let's see what you can do now. Beauty Jio looked at Dustless triumphantly, and her small face was filled with a bright smile. Looking at the majestic Dustless, her whole face was filled with a sense of victory. Finally, I won once. Wu Chen remained silent, but in the eyes of Temptress Meijio, he was admitting defeat. Thinking of the previous suffocating experience, Temptress Meijio suddenly had a feeling of exaltation. This world was really too beautiful. He won a round? Who told you? Does this mean you won? Glancing at the Temptress Meijio indifferently, Wu Chen calmly asked, based on what do you conclude that you've won? Ridiculous. I'm telling you now, the show has just begun. Stubborn. Hearing this, Beauty Jio snorted disapprovingly, and then stared at Dustless to see what magic weapon this guy had to turn the tables. While Beauty Jio stared at Dustless, Dustless also stared at her. He also took the initiative to close the distance with Beauty Jio and grabbed her white arm. What do you want to do? Beauty Jio asked nervously. Being stared at by Dustless's blazing eyes made her uncomfortable, but she pretended to be calm and resolutely refused to admit defeat. What do I want to do? Dustless smiled strangely and said, you just said that I'm your boyfriend, right? Yes. Beauty Jio nodded. Announcing that Dustless was her boyfriend in front of the fans could arouse the anger of male fans. And Dustless would not be able to have a peaceful life in the future. Haha, then I'll do what a boyfriend should do now. As soon as the voice fell, Dustless pulled Beauty Joe over in an instant. Under the gaze of countless pairs of stunned eyes, he fiercely blocked Beauty Joe's cheeks. You! Beauty Joe's eyes widened in an instant. She looked at Dustless in disbelief. She looked at Dustless as if she was looking at a ghost. This guy dared to do something out of line in front of her fans. Woo-woo. After being sluggish for a while, Beauty Joe struggled frantically, but she was too weak to move at all. Her arm was tightly grasped, and she could not resist at all. You smelly cockroach, how dare you grab me? Beauty Joe's heart was blown by a storm. Her eyes were fixed on Dustless, and her pretty face was flushed with anger. She never thought that Dustless was so bold that he dared to do something in front of her fans. Wasn't this bastard afraid of being cut into pieces by her fans? Damn it, a man dares to. Beauty Joe clenched her fists tightly. She couldn't wait to beat Dustless to death. However, she was tied up by Dustless at the moment and had no strength to do this kind of thing. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus more chapters. 3,000 rewards plus more chapters, 1,000 comments plus more chapters, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more chapters. Oh. Chapter 2141. Damn it, a man dares to. Temptress Magio clenched her fists tightly. She couldn't wait to beat Dustless to death. However, she was bound by Dustless at the moment, and she had no strength to move Dustless. For a long time, Temptress Magio hated men very much. There was a kind of hatred from the depths of her soul. Especially Dustless. This guy was really abominable. He even kissed her in public and took advantage of her openly. Dustless's behavior completely angered Temptress Magio. What should I do? This is bad. Seeing Dustless blocking Temptress Magio's lips, Murasame Rain was quite jealous. This was nothing more than verifying Dustless's catchphrase that often hung on his mouth. Dying under the peony, being a ghost is also a romantic. He caused the trouble himself, he should solve it himself. Itsuka Kotori said. Although she did not show dissatisfaction, Murasame Rain and others were not ignorant in the emotional aspect. They all heard a deep resentment, which was obviously aimed at Dustless. Oh my god, my goddess. Kill him, you must kill him. Is there anyone who is willing to ally with me? Temptress Magio, what kind of magic potion did this guy give her? How could he do this kind of thing in public? Damn it, it must be an illusion. This is absolutely an illusion. Countless male audiences were heartbroken. They looked at Dustless and wanted to cry but had no tears. Their ferocious eyes were comparable to wolves, tigers and leopards. Everyone's heart was ignited. Your fans are really crazy. In the face of countless eyes that wanted to eat him, Dustless was calm. His cheeks were as calm as still water, and his tone was light as if he was talking about someone else. You brat! Who gave you the courage to do this? Temptress Magio's little face changed back and forth. It was extremely wonderful. She didn't expect Dustless to be so arrogant. He even dared to take advantage of her in front of her fans. Didn't he know the consequences of doing so? He could be cut into pieces at any time. Who gave me the courage? Do you still need to say it? You are so close to me. Dustless smiled disapprovingly. Didn't you say that I am your boyfriend? So what if I do this kind of thing? It's normal. Bastard, you clearly know that I said that on purpose, but you still. Tempting Night Beauty Gio flew into a rage and glared at Wu Qin. Her beautiful eyes were spitting fire. She had a feeling of lifting a stone and dropping it on her own feet. Dustless. Temptress Magio. Temptress Magio, she gritted her teeth when she mentioned the word girlfriend. Trust Magio. Use whatever means you have. Wu Qin said casually. I to you. To Dustless Magiless. And Magiless to cry. As to cry. Ter Magio Magig to SOS to her to. To cry. Woo-woo. The sobbing sound was getting louder and louder, and it gradually spread to the audience. The scene that almost went berserk suddenly died down after Temptress Magio stirred it up. There was dead silence. The goddess actually cried. Which brat did it? The male audience was furious. Temptress Magio was the goddess in everyone's dream. Now someone actually made her cry. He should be put into a frying pan. This guy is really bad. He really knows how to play. Dustless frowned slightly. He took a deep look at Temptress Magio and vaguely caught the pride in the girl's eyes. But don't regret it. Dustless muttered to himself in his heart. His frowning brows loosened. He had already guessed Temptress Magio's evil idea. Fight with me? You are finished. Her white jade-like finger suddenly pointed at Dustless. Temptress Magio cried with a sad face. She was extremely pitiful. She sobbed. He already has a girlfriend and asked me to be his mistress. He also said that I am ugly and said that I am not qualified to be his girlfriend. Ooh. In the end, she seemed to have touched the wound in her heart. Temptress Magio's sobbing sound became louder and harsher. Ha! Hearing this, not only the audience was stunned, but even Wu Chen also looked at the tearful Temptress Magio inconceivably. In his heart he secretly said, "Damn, you're really an actress. You're invincible when you talk nonsense. When did I say that I want you to be a mistress? Kill this ungrateful brat. He is simply a scum. He is even worse than an animal. Yes, let's kill him together." After a moment of silence, the audience suddenly burst into an earth-shattering roar. They rushed over in a rage. Their ferocious appearance was comparable to ghosts. Everyone held a bench in their hands. They looked like they wanted to die together with Dustless. "Ha, you are finished." Seeing this scene, Temptress Magio wiped away her tears and looked at Dustless gloatingly. "This bastard is finished this time." "Is it?" Wu Chen just glanced at the audience as if nothing had happened. Facing the enraged audience, he was not afraid. Instead, he took the initiative to take a few steps forward and looked at the male audience who rushed over with his eyes like torches. "You want to kill them?" Temptress Magio frowned and then shook her head. If Dustless really did so, there would be no place for him in this world. "Since you want to play so much, then I will accompany you to the end." Dustless looked around. His deep eyes suddenly burst out a wave of power, followed by an invisible impact in his body that swept out instantly. Boom, boom, boom. The invisible wave was extremely oppressive and swept over everyone. The crazy crowd stopped at the same time. Under the horrified gaze of Temptress Magio, they fell to the ground in disbelief. What did you do?" Temptress Magio screamed and looked closely. Everyone was foaming at the mouth and rolling their eyes. In an instant, thousands of viewers fainted. "I just used Haushiko Haki to stun them." Facing the girl's questioning eyes, Dustless answered indifferently. "P.S. 3,000 flowers plus more, 3,000 rewards plus more, 1,000 evaluation votes plus more, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more." Oh. Chapter 2142. She just fainted? Hearing Dustless's indifferent answer, Beauty Temptress's face that was not stained with dirt showed some confusion. She just fainted? Isn't it too easy to say? Thousands of spectators attacked without hesitation, showing no mercy at all. "Don't waste time. Use all your means. Don't waste my time." Dustless waved his hand impatiently. "It's boring to talk to you here. You bastard. Am I that annoying? Pay attention to your words and tone." Hearing this, the nameless fire in Temptress Magio's heart rose straight up. Her bright eyes stared at Wu Chen. She was hit hard by his annoyed tone. All along she had been loved by everyone. Especially after obtaining the power of an elf, Temptress Magio's temperament became even more arrogant, and she became an existence above others. But as the saying goes, everything is an exception. Dustless's attitude was full of disgust, which made Beauty Temptress feel quite shocked. She even suspected that there was something wrong with her beauty. "If there's nothing else, I'm going back to sleep." Dustless coldly glanced at Beauty Temptress. He labeled her as boring in his heart and then left. "You, stop right there. Who allowed you to leave?" Beauty Temptress was stunned. She quickly shouted, "Put down all my fans. How can I explain to them if you leave so casually? Fans. Hearing this, Dustless stopped. He turned his head and sneered at Beauty Temptress. Since you can use this group of idiots, why can't I attack them? What's more, you deliberately made things difficult for me. I'm already merciful that I didn't find trouble with you. Don't push it, little girl. I'm not going to talk nonsense with you. In short, you have to stay. Beauty Temptress asked herself if it was Dustless's fault for bickering. His sharp tongue made her speechless every time. However, what made Meijio lose face was that Dustless did not pay attention to her and left on his own. He did not even turn his head to look at Meijio. Despicable fellow. Could it be that being in the same space as this old lady isn't as comfortable as sleeping with you? Temptress Meijio stomped her feet in anger. This feeling of being looked down upon caused her self-esteem to suffer a blow. Temptress Meijio had always been in existence surrounded by stars wherever she went. Now that she was ignored by Dustless, her heart was immediately filled with anger. Of course, there was also a hint of curiosity and confusion. Unlike the others, Night Tempter Meijio could clearly feel that the way Dustless looked at her didn't have that kind of deep possessiveness. It was very normal and calm. To put it bluntly, it was as if he was looking at a man. Women were such unpredictable creatures. Sometimes if you took the initiative to pay attention to the other party, they might ignore you. But when you ignored them, they would feel extremely uncomfortable. This was the case for Beauty Temptress Meijio. She had always been praised to the sky, but now someone suddenly pulled her down and kicked her twice. Beauty Temptress Meijio was really disgusted, but at the same time, there was an indescribable special feeling. I'm just curious. Beauty Temptress Meijio comforted herself in her heart. At the same time, she glanced at Dustless gloomily. Seeing that this guy completely ignored her words, the spiritual power in her body slowly erupted. Boom boom boom. The hurricane-like spiritual power fluctuation swept across the audience. The already messy concert was even more unbearable at this moment. It was messy as if they had come to a second-hand furniture market. There were visible cracks on the seats. Immediately afterward, a pleasant song suddenly sounded. This clear and pleasant voice was very warm, like the sun in the cold winter. It made people want to relax and enjoy it. This chick doesn't accept a lesson at all. I just taught her a lesson. In such a short time, did she forget the pain? Dustless frowned. He clearly felt a special spiritual power hitting his mind, trying to control his thoughts. It's just that Dustless's spiritual power is too strong. This weak spiritual power has little impact on him, and it has no effect at all. He can deal with it calmly. Let's leave for now. Dustless shook his head. If he didn't have to, he really didn't want to bully a girl. Although he killed countless people, Dustless still has his own principles. As long as Beauty Temptress Meijio is obedient, Dustless doesn't mind letting her go. But now, it seems that his kindness was ignored by the other party. That's it for today. I'll take you to other places to play later. Dustless looked at Itsuka Kotori and others. When he used Haushika Haki to clear the area, he didn't target them. However, Itsuka Kotori and others didn't respond to Dustless. They just looked at Beauty Temptress Meijio with empty eyes, and their cheeks were dull. Seeing that Itsuka Kotori and others ignored him, Dustless looked at them carefully. He saw that all of them were still looking at Beauty Temptress Meijio with a very sincere expression. His face suddenly turned gloomy. You used your ability to control Toka and the others? Dustless clenched his fist suddenly. He didn't like to get angry, but some people always like to seek death. Your gloomy cheeks are wonderful. It's the most wonderful expression I've ever seen in my life. Hearing this, Beauty Temptress Meijio laughed out loud. The crisp and pleasant voice naturally evolved into a musical note, which is very pleasant to listen to. People with weak willpower will fall into it if they don't pay attention. Is that so? Dustless looked at Beauty Temptress Meijio faintly. Maybe it's really wonderful, but the price you have to pay for seeing this face is very heavy. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 evaluation votes plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2143. Is it? Dustless looked at Temptress Magio faintly, and his eyes emitted a cold hostility. Maybe it's really wonderful, but the price you have to pay for seeing this face is very heavy. When these words fell, the scene suddenly became extremely oppressive, and it was filled with an austere oppressive atmosphere. Unknowingly, it became extremely difficult to breathe. Dustless's silent eyes revealed a fierce light, and his ruthless eyes looked at Temptress Magio unscrupulously. To some extent, Temptress Magio had really touched Dustless's reverse scale. He hated this kind of person who threatened him the most in his life. He absolutely couldn't let it go easily, no matter who it was. Anyone can talk nonsense. Don't think that I will be afraid of you. Temptress Magio looked at Dustless without fear. Perhaps because she was really angry, her proud cleavage swayed up and down, and the soul-stirring arc was wonderful and refreshing. However, the scene at the moment was extremely cold, and no one appreciated it. Although Temptress Magio and Dustless were tit for tat, her eyes were obviously evasive. Obviously, she lacked confidence and was very afraid of Dustless's strength. After all, she had suffered several big losses before, and it was inevitable that it left a shadow in her heart. All of you go for me. Don't leave him alone. Beat this kid to death. I don't believe that he dares to fight back. Without nonsense, Temptress Magio waved her hand gently. Shixiang and others who were controlled trembled, and then they rushed to Dustless with empty eyes. Shoo shoo shoo. One after another, beautiful silhouettes rushed over and surrounded him from all directions. These people are your friends. I don't believe that you can do it. Temptress Magio chuckled. Although Dustless gave people a cold feeling, she knew that Dustless cared about Shixiang and others from the bottom of his heart. Being able to accompany them to watch her concert explained everything. Therefore, Temptress Magio could conclude that Dustless would never hurt Shixiang and others, so she could only wait for death. Do you think you can defeat me by relying on them? This idea is too naive and ignorant. The mocking tone rang in her ears. Xiao Magio was stunned for a moment before she looked over. What she saw was Dustless's sneering face. You have a sharp tongue. If you're a man, then kill them all for me to see. Temptress Magio said with an ashen face. She was extremely angry and unhappy. She had always been a proud daughter of heaven. Now Dustless dared to mock her. His attitude was extremely bad. Temptress Magio's self-esteem was constantly shattered. Do you need to test whether I'm a man or not? Or have you seen it before? Dustless asked with a teasing look. You have a nose and eyes, and your figure is not bad. If you want to have a memorable night with me, it's not impossible as long as you kowtow and beg me. In short, I have always been a very generous person. Go to hell, you bastard. Tempting Night Beauty Jiu was so depressed that she almost vomited blood. This bastard really didn't know how to speak. Who didn't have a nose and eyes? These words sounded like a compliment, but in fact, it was even worse than a curse. Moreover, this bastard was simply insatiable. There were too many people who had fantasized about her. Even if there were thousands of people lining up, Dustless wouldn't be her turn. However, this hateful bastard actually asked her to kowtow and beg him. Tempting Night Beauty Jiu, she was about to explode. At the same time, 10 fragrances and the others also surrounded them. Boom boom boom. A large scale of power fluctuations erupted from Dustless's body. It was almost materialized. Wave after wave, it was vast and endless. The scene was very oppressive and shocking. The high-density power suppressed people until they couldn't breathe. There was no doubt that Dustless definitely didn't intend to wait for death. Binding path number 61, 6-rod light prison. His finger gently pointed at 10 fragrances and the others. Several golden ribbons of light attacked from all directions, easily fixing them in place. Even though they were close to Dustless, it was difficult for them to move. It was as difficult as ascending to heaven to take half a step forward. Is there a mistake? He subdued a group of elves so easily? Could it be that he went easy on them? Tempting Night Beauty Jiu looked at the scene in front of her in a daze. She subconsciously frowned. She was counting on 10 fragrances, and the others to make things difficult for Dustless. Who would have thought that they were so weak that they were easily dealt with in the blink of an eye? Next is you. Since you like to court death, then I can't let you die. Have a good experience of what it means to be unable to live and unable to die. His gaze fell on tempting Night Beauty Joe again. Dustless slowly walked over. With every small step he took, tempting Night Beauty Joe's heart would sink a little. Sparkling and translucent sweat condensed on her hair. She felt powerless, as if the sky was falling down. Dustless's strength was obvious to all. She really didn't have much confidence in defeating Dustless. Am I going to admit defeat just like that? Tempting Night Beauty Joe's exquisite beautiful eyes stared at Dustless, who was slowly walking over. She couldn't help but shiver. Bow down? Or bow down to a man who has repeatedly despised and insulted me? It's better to kill her. Seeing Dustless's face, tempting Night Beauty Joe was extremely depressed. Boom boom boom. Although her strength was not as good as Dustless, tempting Night Beauty Joe's body also burst out with surging spiritual power. The vast ocean was endless, as majestic as the sea. There was no limit to it. Undoubtedly, tempting Night Beauty Joe was also going all out. She had repeatedly offended and plotted against Dustless. She knew that after being captured alive, she would definitely be tortured by this guy. Tempting Night Beauty Joe hated men very much, and her temper was very arrogant. She had the temperament of a queen. How could she tolerate being Dustless's captive? Absolutely not allowed. A deathbed struggle? TSK, whether it is an elf or a human, this is an instinct. When facing danger, it is absolutely impossible to bow down and give up. Sensing the spiritual power fluctuation in tempting Night Beauty Joe's body, Dustless smiled faintly and still walked over. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus more chapters, 3,000 rewards plus more chapters, 1,000 evaluation votes plus more chapters, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more chapters. You're tuning in to the Lee May's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.